unmuted. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
As I was saying earlier, Tampa City Council evening session for the February 9th, 2023 meeting is now in session. Roll call.
Carlson, Vieira, Maniscalco. Here. Hurtak. Here. Goulds, Miranda.
Here.
Citro.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shelby.
Yes, very briefly, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Council, members of the public. Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. A motion to waive the rules to allow continued use of CMT.
We have a motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilwoman Hurtak. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposed? Motion passes.
Move to open items 2 through 10.
Second. We have a motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposed? The motion passes. We are supposed to have had a commendation presentation. However, the people that the presentation was going to be given to, the commendation was going to be given to, were unable to make it. So agenda item 1 is now off of our agenda. So if we could, Mr. Hussein, shall we go through the agenda at this time?
Yes, sir. Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. First, to clear the record, agenda item number 3, that's file number REZ 22-107, is requesting a continuance from today, 2/9/23, to March 9th, 2023. The applicant is here.
Okay, and that, let's go ahead and have everyone that is going to be speaking on in the agenda items or presenting anything for these agenda items, which is probably most of you here. Would you please rise to be sworn in?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Then if that is going to be the case, can we hear from the petitioner, please?
Good evening, Council. Steve Michelini, representing the petitioner. This application went back to the city staff 2 weeks ago, and because of that, it was not possible for us to notify and get back to you on an appropriate time and date. So we worked with the staff, and they are in support of us requesting the March continuance.
Is this the first time it's been continued?
I think it's the second time.
Second time. Second time. It's only the second time. Okay, thank you, Mr. Michelini. For 1 second, please, Mr. Shelby.
Yes.
One second, please.
I'm sorry.
Is there anyone here that wishes to speak to agenda item number 3, file number REZ 22-107, about the continuance only? Seeing none, and I do not see anyone online. Mr. Shelby?
Yes, Mr. Michelini, you've requested March 9th, 2023. Is that
I
your
think
request?
that's the date that the staff has agreed to, yes.
Will that give you, being that this is your request, the second request, will that give you enough time to be prepared for presentation on March 9th? I just want to be clear that you feel, because you know what has happened, City Council, when it comes to a third continuance, has had
Yes, sir.
a custom.
Well, the DRC identified what the changes were that they were requesting. We've made those changes, and we will be ready to go forward in March.
Okay, and you understand then
I
that would,
understand that we're in jeopardy if we have to ask for another one.
I don't want to use those terms, but you understand.
That's clear. We're in jeopardy asking for a third continuance.
Okay, thank you.
There is no 180-day rule here?
Not that I'm aware of.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Kate, do we have a 180-day issue? I'm sorry?
Yes, Councilor Shondock, Development Coordination. I believe the 180-day was granted at the last request for continuance, but it would apply. It is beyond the 180 days.
Thank you very much. We have a motion made by Councilman. I'm sorry, I see hands going up behind me. I had already asked if anybody wanted to speak to the continuance.
I'm sorry, I didn't know what you guys were speaking of until I just looked up.
Item 3.
And that's what ma'am, Anyone wishing to speak to agenda item number 3, file number REZ 22-107, to the continuance only? Ma'am, please come up here.
And Mr. Chairman, just so that.
Ma'am? Yes, Mr. Shelby.
And just so that people understand that that is at the address of 1206 West Lemon Street.
We didn't know the address when you said the name. They never told us the name.
Please
of it.
stand in front of the podium here. Give us your name for the record.
Octavia Simpson, owner
Okay.
of 1206. We've been speaking with Century 21, and they never told us about a continuance until March 9th.
That has just been asked for.
We don't want a continuance
Can you give us the reason in which you do not want the continuance?
because we've been waiting since April of last year till December. They continued it from September to December to February, and now it's trying to continue into March. They said today would be when everything should be done.
Can I explain that we have site plan and design issues that are beyond our control, and the city staff hasn't had the sufficient time to finish a report, so they never finished a report to present to city council that they have to do at least 1 week in advance. So they don't have anything in front of them to consider right now. I'm sorry.
Mr. McLean, ma'am, come back because we're recording you as you're speaking. Ma'am, do you understand what is going on now? Okay. Mr. Goods, Councilman Goods.
So I can get clarification. Are you the property owner for this property, ma'am?
Yes.
And you're saying you don't want to continue with what your representative, Mr. Michelini, is doing?
He never told us anything.
So you haven't been conversing with Mr. Michelini
No.
from last year to now, what the process is, or why he comes before us, or anything?
No. This is my first time meeting Mr. Michelini.
Mr.
Mr. Chairman, one second. Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, point of privilege, I think maybe Mr. Michelini and his client may need to go and discuss what's going on and then come back and for a decision, because maybe she isn't clear on what the process is with her agent.
If I can inquire of Mr. Michelini. Mr. Michelini, are you the authorized representative for this person?
I am, but I'm not the one that's been interfacing with them. The Realtor has been interfacing with the family. The property is in an estate, and there's five, right?
Three of the five are here today.
There's 5 different owners that we've been dealing with, but the Realtor has been doing that, and I apologize for them not communicating with you. I'm on the other side of the trying to facilitate what you want, and we cannot get your project with the townhouses in front of city council because we haven't met the technical standards for a review.
Does
that make sense to you?
No.
Mr. Michelini, would you want an opportunity to speak with them?
Mr. Michelini, I would suggest you go ahead and take this woman outside or any other people that might be involved in this property and
Okay.
have a discussion outside, and then we'll come back later after we've gone through the rest of the agenda, okay?
All right, the next case is mine as well.
We're still going through the agenda review at this time, Mr. McLean.
Azam is the designer for that project. I'll let him explain to them.
Mr. Hussein.
Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. The next item to be removed from the agenda is agenda item number 11. This is case REZ 23-15. This is not a misnotice. This just needs to be removed from the agenda.
So move.
Second. A motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Motion passes. Anybody want to approve the agenda?
Second.
We have a motion to approve the agenda by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Shelby.
Yes, thank you. Just very briefly, if there have been any verbal ex parte communications for any of tonight's hearings, please be sure you disclose them prior to the hearing beginning. And I'd like a motion, please, to receive and
moved.
file any written ex parte communications. Thank you.
Motion made by Councilman Goods, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Hussein, would we like to start with agenda item number 2, file number REZ 22-89?
Yes, we can. Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. This is proposed rezone at 3410 North 11th Street. Proposed rezoning from RS50 to PD, planned development, residential, single-family detached. I'll now pass along to the Planning Commission.
Good evening. Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. Our first case is in the Central Tampa Planning District, and more specifically, it's in East Tampa Urban Village. Here's an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. This is East Columbus Drive here. It's generally at the northwest corner of North Morgan Street and East Columbus Drive. The closest transit stop is approximately 4 blocks to the southeast of this.
On the 11th, that map.
There we go.
All right, apologize for that.
Thank you.
This case is within the East Tampa Urban Village. The closest transit stop is located at the southeast corner of the subject site at the intersection of Republica de Cuba and East 26th Avenue. The subject site is not located within an evacuation zone. The closest public recreation facility is Burrell Park, located 1,000 feet west of the subject site. Here is the adopted future land use map. As you see, the subject site is located here. It's surrounded by the residential, it's recognized under the residential 10 designation and is surrounded by the residential 10 designation on all sides. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the application, found no adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. The subject site is situated 170 feet northeast of the intersection of North 11th Street and East 26th Avenue in the East Tampa Urban Village. The surrounding area contains a mix of detached single-family and two-family residential uses. This portion of North 11th Street between East 26th Avenue and East 28th Avenue contains parcels recognized under the residential 10 designation and are being utilized for detached single-family uses. This segment is also developed at a density of 5.49 dwelling units per acre. The PD proposes a density of 5.47 units per acre, which is comparable to the existing density in the surrounding area. The Planning Commission staff finds that the request is comparable to the development pattern in the surrounding area. The 4 proposed attached single-family units are not adjacent to the public right-of-way, but vehicular access to the units is provided from North 11th Street and an alley. The applicant is providing internal pedestrian connections which will help improve the pedestrian experience by ensuring pedestrians can access the sidewalk along North 11th Street. In conclusion, the request will maintain the stability of an existing area while expanding opportunities for housing choices in the Central Tampa Planning District. The request is comparable and compatible with this portion of the Ybor Heights neighborhood and is consistent with the long-range development pattern encouraged under the residential 10 future land use designation. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. I'll first go ahead and show the aerial view of the property. As you see the property right here outlined in red, it is encompassed and surrounded by all residential single-family detached homes, and these are all zoned RS50. As you see to the north, you have East 28th Avenue, to the south, East 26th Avenue. If you go to the east, you'll have Devon Street, and if you go out to the west, you'll have North Nebraska Avenue. I'll now show the site plan of the property proposed by the applicant. This is this sheet is on page 4 of the site plan package provided by the applicant. As you see, the applicant here is proposing to develop 4 residential single-family units. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. On page 2 of the staff report, these are broken down by the lots, the square footage per lot, the building coverage per lot, and the setbacks per lot. The site at the current time is vacant. The maximum building height is at a proposed 35 feet. Vehicular access to the site will come off North 11th Street, as you see, coming on in to all 4 units. This property is located in the East Tampa overlay and also in the East Tampa urban village. I will now show the elevations provided by the applicant. Now, these elevations, if approved between first and second reading, the applicant will need to make changes and label these elevations per unit. But from the front of the buildings, this is the elevation to see. To the rear of each unit. One side elevation. And the other side elevation. As I went out to the site, took pictures. As I said, the current site is vacant at this time. As you see the vacant site with the public notice sign. Across the street to the northeast of the site, residential, single-family detached. Also across the street, more residential, single-family detached homes. To the southeast of the site, residential, single-family detached. To the south of the site, residential, single-family detached homes. And to the north of the site, you have another residential, single-family detached home. The applicant is requesting 4 waivers. The staff report had 5, but one's a duplicate, so there's 4 requested waivers here. These are from development coordination, urban design, and natural resources. The development review and compliance staff has reviewed the petition and finds the overall request to be inconsistent with the land development code. Should it be City Council's pleasure to approve the application, the applicant must provide changes between first and second reading as per the revision sheet. I'm here for any questions.
Councilman Good.
Zane, put this site plan back up again. I'm trying to visualize when I saw the actual framing of the property for parking. I didn't think I'd see any garages on these homes. Where's parking's gonna be? Okay.
Why is anyone else? Why has the city found this inconsistent?
Staff found this inconsistent due to the waivers from urban design, development coordination, and natural resources, and also due to the amount of changes they need to do on the site plan.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Can you be more specific? I think that's, yeah, like what are the actual waivers?
See, the waivers here are natural resources had to remove 2 non-hazardous grand live oaks. Also, You had, Development Coordination had a request to allow building fronts to orient towards the interior of the zoning lot. You had Urban Design request to allow front yard setbacks at a minimum of 10 feet. And Natural Resources had request to reduce the required 8-foot VUA buffer to 0 feet along the west, along the unimproved alleyway.
May I get forestry up here, please? And I'm looking at the site plan, and I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, what appears to be large oak trees. And they're saving these 7, but only 2.
Okay, Aaron Merritt, Development Coordination. I was actually going to speak on this because it's a little unusual for Natural Resources to be consistent and to speak on a project, but the applicant has worked with us a lot in trying to, you know, to orient the lots and to preserve as many grand trees as possible.
Then maybe shouldn't be asking you, maybe the petitioner needs to make his plea on this. So let's hear from the petitioner, unless there's any other questions. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll hear from you in a second, I'm sure. Petitioner, come on up. We're waiting on you.
Sorry. Good evening. I'm Daniel Shockey with Northside Engineering. I haven't been sworn in yet.
Anyone who has not been sworn in and will be giving any type of testimony to any of these proceedings tonight, please stand, rise, raise your right hand. There we go.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. I thank city staff. I thank council for being here. The site plan, as they've shown you, we've made the changes that the city staff has referred to. Already, these changes that they've requested are very minor. Like Aaron was talking about, the great lengths that we've gone to save 5 out of the 7 grand oaks on this property. So we've been working on this since October, I believe, was our first scheduled hearing. So we've gone to great lengths to save all these trees, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has about it.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
This is a very unusual parcel.
Yes.
It's just very unusual, and I think this is a very creative way to use, to put some single-family homes in there in trying to fit with the neighborhood as much as possible. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Now, any other questions? The changes that you've made that the staff was asking for, have you already made them, or they have to be made between first and second reading?
They've been made, but we would present them for a second
Between
reading.
first and second reading.
Correct.
Any other questions from? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to agenda item number 2, REZ 22-89?
Good evening. My name is Hush Kovahi. I'm with Northside Engineering, partners with this young man. I have been sworn in. We're located in Clearwater, 300 South Belcher Road. Wanted to state, as you folks have iterated, this site is extremely challenging, very unusual shape. It has a lot of really nice oaks, grand oaks, beautiful oaks. I've been there several times. I've taken many pictures. Owners here with us too tonight, so if there are any questions that we may not be able to answer, Mr. Solo in the back with his wonderful wife, they're here to answer any further questions. But wanted to recognize the staff for doing a wonderful job with us. It's taken a while to get the project to where it is. In the beginning, it was totally different, but working with staff very closely with the landscape department, with the zoning, we have gotten it to a point where we feel comfortable, and I hope that you folks feel comfortable too. The time that has gone on, of course, it has affected the economy, and we wanted to be sure that we could get this project with your blessings approved as soon as possible, so that hopefully the economy will not go further down and have adverse effects on us. But we're trying to get this project with your blessings approved as soon as possible, so that we're able to hopefully still, ownership make a profit on this subdivision. I'll be glad to answer any further questions.
Any questions? I would, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I would like to hear from 4th Street at this time, please.
Erin Merritt, Development Coordination. All right, so when the applicant had originally come to us, they were proposing to remove 5 grand trees. And so this is the site plan here. And they changed their setbacks, they've changed the building envelopes to accommodate these grand trees and given them almost their full protective radii, except for the cases where you see permeable pavement or things of that nature. And then I just want to show, this here is just a picture, of the site. It's very dense, especially to the west along the alley, where you have this grand live oak in the front is staying. That tree is being preserved. It's probably the largest tree out there. And then this is kind of what it looks like in the site. And because of the limited light back there, the trees have grown pretty upright, which is good for, construction. You don't have to prune as much off some of these trees. But they will need waivers to remove 2 of them, which we thought we could be consistent with that as they're preserving 5 of the trees. One of those is off-site as well, so. But if you have any questions for me, I'm here.
Councilman Carlson.
Just a quick question, that grand oak in the front,
Yep.
what is the rating on that tree? It looks like,
This tree is actually rated C9.
does that, the part about halfway up and up, it looks like it's,
Yeah, there is some discoloration there, but it's
a beautiful tree, but
yeah,
just wondering.
yeah. With a live oak in this sort of situation, this wouldn't be something we would be like, this needs to be removed. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilman Goods, you were wondering about the garages earlier. Did you get your questions answered?
This is a funky design that we made, which I'm looking at, the garage doors on this on-street parking. It's,
Petitioner, could you please come back up to the podium?
explain this parking to me.
The parking will be handled by carports. Have it with me.
Carport?
Yeah, there'll be a carport, and one of those driveways in the plan that you saw has actually shifted so that they'll be able to drive right in. Everybody except for one lot will actually have a driveway that'll provide parking and a carport to provide parking. There's the one that you can see is turned. We had to eliminate the actual driveway parking, but they will still have a full carport for 2 spots. So everybody has at least 2 spots in every home.
2 spots.
Correct.
All right.
Councilman Hurtak.
That alley access, sir? Is that alley an open alley?
As far as
Is it usable?
accessible?
Yeah.
It can't be accessed by vehicular traffic. It's not paved, and one end is closed off.
Okay.
If it could be paved from, I think, 26th on down. So if we were to pave half of it, it could provide access, but even then, it's only 15 feet wide, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to agenda item number 2, file number REC 22-89? Do we have anyone online? Move to close.
Second.
Motion to close by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Aye. Is there any opposed? Motion passes. Councilman Carlson.
I'd like to move file number REZ 22-89, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 3410 North 11th Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described as Section 1 from zoning district classification RS 50 residential single family to PD plan development residential single family detached, providing effective date.
We have a motion made.
It's not related. Just
We
wait a
have a
second.
motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilwoman Hurtak. Roll call vote.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Goulds,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on March 2nd, 2023 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you. We are
Council,
back to agenda item number 3, file number REZ 22-107. Mr. McElhaney.
Council, as you well know, rezoning process is not easily understood. And because we had to go back to the city staff for DRC, the family didn't understand what was going on. And we've explained it to them now, and we also have explained that they cannot go forward this evening because there was no evaluation made of the site plan, nor do you have a staff report. So, and I apologize to you all for the confusion. We'll try to take better care to make sure that they're more clearly informed before coming back.
Okay, is this gentleman one of the property owners?
Yes, sir, he's one of the 5 members of the family.
Sir, do you and your family members understand the reason why Mr. McElhaney, the representative, is asking for the continuance, excuse me?
Continue.
Yes, sir. Do you understand the reason why?
Yes.
Okay,
And you don't have any objections?
No, no, I don't.
okay. Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to speak to agenda item number 3, file number REZ 22-107, the continuance only?
Move to continue to March 9, 2023,
We have a motion made by
5:01 PM.
We have a motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Aye. Is there any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, council, for your consideration and your patience.
Agenda item number 4, file number REZ 22-65. Mr. Hussein.
Hussein, Development Coordination. This case is proposed rezoning at 2304 North Highland Avenue. Proposed rezoning from RM24 to PD Residential Single Family Attached. I'll now pass it along to our Planning Commission.
Good evening, Danny Collins, again with your Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. Our next case is in the Central Tampa Planning District, and more specifically in the Tampa Heights Urban Village. Robert C. Garner Park is the closest recreation facility, which is located directly to the east of the subject site. The closest transit stop is within a quarter mile of the subject site on North Tampa Street. The stop is served by Heart Routes 1 and 6, providing connections to downtown Tampa, the university area, and that park. And the subject site is not located within an evacuation zone. Here's an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. You'll see the subject site, it's outlined in this purple color. It's just on the west of North Highland Avenue. This is North Ola Avenue here. Here is the adopted future land use map. The subject site's currently recognized under the residential 35 future land use designation. That designation allows residential development up to 35 dwelling units per acre and allows the consideration of multifamily, single-family attached, and detached single-family uses. Directly to the east of the subject site is Robert C. Garner Park, which is recognized under the recreational open space designation. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found the request consistent with the density anticipated in the surrounding area. The average density in this portion of North Highland Avenue on residential zoned parcels south of West Francis Avenue, east of North Ola Avenue, and north of West Parks Avenue is 6.23 dwelling units per acre. This area is planned for residential development up to 35 dwelling units per acre. So the surrounding area can be considered underdeveloped with respect to the underlying future land use. If approved, the subject site will have been developed at an overall density of 19 dwelling units per acre, which is consistent with the density anticipated under the residential 35 designation. The comprehensive plan encourages single-family attached developments to be designed to include orientation of the front door to a neighborhood sidewalk and street, which is satisfied through this proposed PD. The single-family attached dwelling units, units 2 through 4, can access the front doors via sidewalk connecting from North Highland Avenue along the southern perimeter of the subject site. The request supports many of the policies in the comprehensive plan as it relates to housing the city's population. The comprehensive plan encourages new housing on vacant and underutilized land to ensure an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations. Additionally, the request is consistent with the compact city form strategy, which encourages infill development within proximity to transit and employment services. And also the comprehensive plan directs the greatest share of growth to the city's urban villages. So this request would provide additional housing within the Tampa Heights urban village. Based on these considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any comments or questions for staff? Seeing none, Mr. Hussein.
Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. I'll first go ahead and share the aerial view of the site. As you see the site here outlined in red, to the north you have zoned RM24, you have residential single family, and also you have office use. To the south you'll have RM24, zoned residential single family. To the west you'll have a zone PD, and this is a vacant lot at this time. And then to the east you have a park, Highland Park, zoned PD to the east. I will show you a little bit of a broader view so you have an idea of where this is. You have West Park Avenue to the south. You also have Armature Works down here to the south. You have West Amelia up here to the north. If you go to the east, you'll have North Tampa Street. And if you go out to the west, you'll have, you'll go down, you'll see you have Armature Works and also North Woodrow Avenue. I will now share the site plan provided by the applicant.
Mr. Hussein.
Can you,
Councilwoman Hurtak.
can you just go back to that map? I have a random question. Okay. Why is a park zoned PD? Shouldn't it be zoned natural something or other?
RO.
Yeah.
This park is zoned PD at this time.
Okay, yeah, let's work on that.
I'm sure they'll come back for a RO. Yeah. Councilman Goods.
Memory serves me correct, that park goes into a dead end. You come off the park, that's the same park, it's a roundabout, it's a roundabout park.
Yeah.
And that street goes into a dead end right into the park, because the technical center is on the back end.
Yes.
Yep. And Northwest is playing that park.
Yeah, I bike by that park every week, yeah.
Mr. Hussein, please continue.
Of course. I'll now show the site plan provided by the applicant. The proposed rezoning is to allow for residential single-family detached and residential single-family attached units. The property is on North Highland Avenue, as you see here to the east. The subject site contains a lot area of 9,255 square feet, or approximately 0.21 acres. The applicant is proposing 4 units here, 3 units that are residential residential single-family attached here, and 1 unit that's residential single-family detached, and that's facing North Highland Avenue. The lot at this time currently has a residential structure on it. The proposed maximum building height is 40 feet in height. The parking, the applicant is providing 14, and the code requires 9 spaces. Vehicular access to Unit 1 is provided from North Highland Avenue here. And for Units 2 through 4, vehicular access is provided from the north on an alley here. I will now share the elevations provided by the applicant. Elevation to the east. Elevation to the west. The elevation to the south of the single-family detached. And the elevation to the north of the residential single-family detached. Now looking at the elevations for the residential single-family attached, you have the north elevation and the south elevation. As per the revision sheet, the applicant will provide elevations for the east and the west also here. As I went out to the site and took pictures, I'll show you what I saw. This is the site as is. To the north, you have residential single family and also office uses. To the east, you have Highland Park. Another view of Highland Park here. And to the south, you have residential single-family detached. The applicant is requesting 6 waivers here, and this is a combination of natural resources, transportation, and development coordination. The first waiver is to request to allow a reduction in aisle width from 24 feet to 18 feet. The second waiver is requesting to reduce the required 8-foot VUA buffer to 5 feet to the west. The third requested waiver is to reduce the required 5-foot use-to-use landscape buffer to 4 feet to the south, adjacent to residential multifamily use. Number 4 is to request to reduce the required 350 square feet per unit green space to 163 square feet per unit. The fifth requested waiver is for a request to reduce the required 20% VUA green space to 16% green space. And the sixth requested waiver is to request to allow front doors for units 2, 3, and 4 to face side yard property lines. Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed their application and finds the overall request to be inconsistent with the Land Development Code. Should it be council's pleasure to approve the application, the applicant must provide revisions to the revision sheet between first and second reading. I'm here for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Hussein? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Steve McElhaney, representing the petitioner. We've made some revisions to the site plan so that there are 4 waivers being requested instead of the 6. We've reviewed that. Basically, we've provided it to the staff, and we've also been working with the neighborhood association to address some of the concerns that they had raised, and we've made those revisions. The site, and I'll go through this in a second, the site is just under 10,000 square feet. It's 9,255 square feet. We have reduced these buffers and changed the site plan. Let me. We've eliminated the reduced vehicle use area green space from 232 to 192 square feet. We've also reduced the required 5-foot use landscape buffer from 4 feet to the south. We've eliminated that. So currently, the waivers being requested are to allow the reduction of the aisle width from 24 to 18, which is within the parameters of the allowable code. The request to reduce the multifamily green space from 350 is now, we've increased the green space, so it's 290 square feet. Reduce the required vehicular use area from 8 feet to 5 feet along the west part of the alley. We've changed that. And then the section to allow the front doors of units 2 through 4 to face the side yard property units. With respect to the land use code, we're allowed to develop 7 units. However, 7 units will not practically fit on this site. What the owner of the property would like to do is demolish the existing house and rebuild his house and maintain that here. So that would be a single-family residential unit. And then we've proposed 3 townhouses here, which would access the alley. There are 3 other townhouse projects to the north and to the west that access that alley now, and it will be completely improved and built to city standards. You see that we've increased the green space here and here, and the doorways will now face the alley and not a regular street. One of the things that we might want to look at in the future is that alleys, since they're becoming more and more utilized for access, that code provision that says you have to seek a waiver, you might want to look at that, because especially in these infill projects where you're trying to provide more housing, it's very difficult. But you're also trying to encourage the use of the alleys, which you have a conflict in the code when that occurs. When we're talking about the code itself, when you're looking at the bigger picture regarding the comprehensive plan, the county staff went through a number of provisions that we meet with respect to the county planning commission and the comprehensive plan. We're required 2 spaces per unit, and what's unusual here with our project that we're before you with, we're providing 14 spaces when 9 are required. So we're reducing the ability for the off-street or on-street parking for somebody to have to access that. And again, the units regarding the townhouses are all coming off the alley. The owner wishes to have his access off of Highland, which is where the current access is. So we've taken this and developed what I think is a unique solution to a difficult issue, where we've transferred the access for the townhouses to the rear, and we've maintained the single-family access exactly where it is now. This property in here is proposed for townhouses. The property north of here is townhouses. This is the subject property where we're planning to demolish the existing single-family house, and this is the property owner who wishes to maintain his residence there. And this is looking down the street. The subject property is down here, and you can see we're adjacent to commercial and businesses in the immediate vicinity. This is a closer view showing you this is the subject property here, and you can see the driveway here, which we're trying to maintain and rebuild a single-family residence here. There are only 3 single-family residences on this section of the street. One and the 2 to the south, one of them has already been redeveloped, and then this one is proposed to be redeveloped. And you can see that we're in close proximity to commercial uses already. When we talk about the land use plan and allowing up to up to the maximum, which would be the 7 units under the residential 35, you would have to build it higher, and you would have to use it, and it would not be like single-family semi-detached. It would be condominium style or apartment style. So when you're looking at the code, and you want that additional housing, it's very difficult to do that and also meet all the rest of the parameters that are established in the code. When you're looking at the responses from the Planning Commission staff, it says to promote efficient and sustainable uses of the land for infrastructure and careful consideration of potential adverse impacts. This has townhouses all around it. This will not create an adverse impact upon any surrounding properties. Allow the integration of different land use and density. So we've maintained the single family on Highland, and we're requesting the ability to develop the townhouses along the rear side of the property. Acknowledge the changing needs and technologies. We've asked for some consideration here and indicated that according to the staff report, we meet that requirement. The property is occupied by a single-family use, and the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area, and the proposed height is also compatible. Encourage flexible land uses. A total of 9 parking spaces are required and 14 are be provided, which is unique. You know, frequently we're in here asking for waivers of parking. In this case, we're providing more than is required. Promote and encourage development where appropriate in location. The residential single-family detached and the attached uses are compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Promote more desirable living and working environments. As we move toward more walkability with respect to work at home and work at your residence, we're providing that. We're only 2 blocks north of Armature Works, which gives you an idea of the type of density and the type of projects that are in the immediate vicinity. Promote the architectural features. Most of these are being redeveloped and into a compatible design, and it says that the proposed elevations are complementary to the uses in the area. Promote the retention and reuse of building and existing stock. This is an existing occupied residential single-family house which will be demolished, and then it'll be replaced with another single-family house. So we have a combination of things being requested. One is the single-family house to be replaced. The second part of that is to allow townhouses in the rear, accessing the alleys, which is another priority and objective of the city. We have endeavored to meet with the neighborhood association. We've also met with city staff. We've made some modifications which increase the green space and remove 2 of the waivers that were being requested. And we believe that we've gone a long way toward making this the most possible compatible development we can. Within 2 blocks, as I said, is Armature Works. This corner in here of Highland and then going south toward Armature Works has been a hotbed for redevelopment of townhouse projects. And again, the alley access will be completely improved to allow that access to occur. And there's already 2 other projects that will access the alley to the north and to the west of this. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. We're respectfully requesting your approval. And I guess that's...
Mr. Hussein.
Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. I did hear and my staff heard, that the applicant is requesting to change things on the site plan and lessen the waivers. But I just want to make it clear, just an aware for council and the applicant to know that if they're going to make modifications to the site plan, that it'll spark and have to have another DRC reviewed by the whole entire staff. So let's just keep that in mind, please.
What does that mean?
Mr. Shelby.
Yeah, question for Mr. Michelini. Mr. Michelini, council has in front of it, and the clerk has filed a site plan that my understanding was filed on January 25th of 2023. Is this the site plan, is this your presentation based on this site plan?
It's based on, the staff report is based on that site plan.
Yes.
We've made modifications since then, and according to what the staff has just told me, that we probably should be requesting a continuance for this to go back through DRC, and to also make any other modifications necessary and get you an appropriate staff report and site plan. And we don't object to that, we would respectfully request that.
And how long would you need in order to do this? I believe this has been continued previously. December 8th is what I was informed. How much time do you need for that to come back, to be able to be heard on the date to which it's continued?
Let me check with staff. and
Thank
see.
you.
The staff is indicating we should be requesting June.
And you agree to that, Mr. Michelini?
Yes.
And do we have a date? A June date of,
We'd have to waive the 180 days, and it would be June, what June?
8th.
June 8th. Thank you.
Move to continue this item, which is REZ 22-65 to June 8th, 5:01 PM.
and also a council of finding at, Mr. Michelini, it is your request then to get the 180-day waiver to allow this to be continued?
Yes, we would require that in order to go back to the DRC.
Is there anybody here who wishes to speak?
And I was just going to ask that.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
sir.
very much, Mr. Shelby. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to agenda item number 4, file number REZ 22-65 to the continuance only? Seeing none, I believe we do have one person online. Mr. Seal, are you there? Do you wish to speak to the continuance only? Mr. Seal? Mr. Seal, we have a motion for continuance from Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Vieira. All in favor? Aye. Is there any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, council.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I have a question with Mr. Shelby and staff. We've wasted how many minutes on this? Is there any pre-review before people come to this council and we go through this process to go, I mean, I don't need Mr. Michelini, I'm just talking to staff. I mean, this is starting to get repetitive with some of these things here, and I'm just wondering, is there a certain different process we need to be going at versus wasting this time? I mean, I'm confused what just happened here.
Ms. Stock, was all of this placed on you and us tonight?
Yes, LaShawn Dock Development Coordination Council. I would like to explain, the applicant had a DRC meeting. The applicant had requested revisions from DRC staff. At that time, those revisions were made. The revised plan was submitted, and that's what the staff report was written on. The changes that you hear today that the applicant has explained that they've made to the site plan, staff had, we have not seen those revisions. That came up today. Wow. So we have to have a chance for our DRC staff to review the changes that are listed. Unless it's a change similar to a note to the site plan, that can be made between first and second reading.
I just had to ask the question, Ms. Doc, you understand?
But no, we're just as surprised as you are, but we're absolutely here to help the applicant, help Steve, but he will have to continue. He can't move forward with those changes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Agenda item number 5, file number REZ 22-125.
Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. This is proposed rezone at the location 210 East Columbus Drive and 2702 and 2706 North Morgan Street. Proposed rezoning from CI, Commercial Intensive, and RS50, Residential Single Family, to PD, Planned Development, Residential Single Family Detached and Semi-Detached. I'll now pass it along to our Planning Commission.
Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. Our next case is in the Central Tampa Planning District, and more specifically the Tampa Heights neighborhood. Robles Park is the closest public recreations facility, located approximately 3/4 of a mile to the northeast of the subject site. The closest transit stop is adjacent to the subject site on West Columbus Drive. Columbus Drive is a transit emphasis corridor, which is identified in a plan as an area suitable for redevelopment and intensification. Here is a aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. You'll see the subject site, it's at the northwest corner of North Morgan Street and East Columbus Drive. You'll see the surrounding area north of Columbus Drive along Morgan Street is predominantly residential. 1 block west of the subject site is North Florida Avenue, which contains predominantly non-residential uses. Here is the adopted future land use map. A majority of the subject site is currently recognized under the Community Commercial 35 designation, which is a mixed-use land use category that allows development up to 35 dwelling units per acre or up to a 2.0 FAR. The northwest portion of the site is recognized under the Residential 10 future land use designation. Along North Florida Avenue is Community Commercial 35, as well as adjacent to the site along Columbus Drive. And then to the north and east of the subject site is land recognized under the Residential 10 land use designation. Due to the site being within an urban village, the subject site is eligible to utilize Land Use Policy 5.1.6. This policy allows lands divided by more than one plan category to proportionally weigh the floor area ratio or density through the entire site, and permitted uses within each land use category can be considered anywhere on the site through a PD rezoning. The subject site is located on Columbus Drive, which is a transit emphasis corridor that is suitable for redevelopment and intensification. The Planning Commission staff finds that the proposed density and uses will not alter the character of the neighborhood. The portions of the subject site designated Community Commercial 35 are considered to be within a mixed-use corridor. The plan development addresses the mixed-use corridor policies by placing the units close to the public rights-of-way and including the orientation of the front door to a neighborhood sidewalk and street. The comprehensive plan encourages vehicular access from an alley, which is provided along the western portion of the subject site. Internal pedestrian connections are provided from three garages to the single-family attached housing fronting East Columbus Drive. Planning Commission staff finds that the PD addresses the mixed-use corridor policies of the plan. The request supports many of the policies in the plan as it relates to housing the city's population. The Tampa Comprehensive Plan encourages new housing on vacant and underutilized land to ensure an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future population. Also, the comprehensive plan seeks to direct the greatest share of growth to the urban villages. This supports this policy direction and will provide additional housing opportunities within the Tampa Heights urban village. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Questions for staff?
Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. I'll go ahead and share the aerial view of the property first. As you see, the property is here outlined in red. To the north of the property, zone RS50, you have residential multifamily structure. To the east of the property, you have residential RS50, and these is a vacant lot, and then you also have offices and residential units over here. To the south, these lots are zoned CI, and these are developed with a cell tower and also an auto repair shop here to the south. And to the west, you have zone CI, you have an auto sales shop here to the west. I will now show the site plan provided by the applicant. The proposed rezoning is for residential single-family detached and semi-detached. The property at this time is currently vacant. The subject property contains a lot area of approximately 10,780 square feet or 0.25 acres. The applicant is proposing 2 residential single-family detached units and 2 residential single-family semi-detached units. The total building square footage is 7,964 square feet. Vehicular access to the site on Building C is from an alley to the west. And for Building A is from North Morgan Street. North Morgan Street to the east. And there's pedestrian access to Building B on the East Columbus Drive here. Building C has a 3-car garage on the first floor and residence on the second floor. The site plan identifies 8 parking spaces are required and 8 are being provided by the applicant. The maximum building height here is 34 feet in height. I will now show the elevations provided by the applicant. As you see, the residential single-family semi-detached structure, the elevation to the south, elevation to the north, elevation to the west, and elevation to the east. For the residential single-family attached above is, you see the elevation to the west here. East elevation, north elevation, and south elevation. For a residential single-family detached, you'll have elevation to the east, west, south, and north. As I went out to the site and took pictures, I'll show you what I saw. First is a picture of the site as is vacant at this time. You have the public notice sign. I'm on North Morgan Street right here. And you have a picture of the vacant lot and the public notice sign. I am here at the intersection of East Columbus and North Morgan. The site is here to your right side. If you look down, you'll have an auto repair shop to the west. To the north of subject site, you'll have residential single-family homes. To the east of the site, you'll have a vacant commercial establishment or building. And farther along to the southeast, you'll have a school. The applicant is not requesting any waivers for this case. Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed the application and finds the overall request to be consistent with the Land Development Code. Should be council's pleasure to approve the application, the applicant must provide revisions to the revision sheet and for Planning Commission's revision between first and second reading. I'm here for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Hussein? Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of council. My name is Mark Bentley, 401 East Jackson Street, Tampa, 33602, and I have been sworn representing the applicant. I'm very pleased to present to council a classic urban infill development consisting of 4 units. One of them is going to be dedicated to meet the definition of affordable housing by stipulation or condition on the site plan. There are apparently 20 letters of support from stakeholders in the community. These are immediate residents in the area, and they support the project, the residential character of the project. And the mantra is, if you've seen the letters, that it will maintain residential character and the integrity of the area, which you'll see when Ryan gives his presentation, is like pristine residential. There's no commercial in this general area at all. Not only are the residents excited and extremely supportive of the project, we've received positive recommendations from your staff, Planning Commission staff, ARC staff, the ARC, who made a recommendation to council to approve the PD along with the general elevations that are part of the PD process. And as Zane indicated, this project's very unique in and of that it doesn't request any waivers or variations. Okay, so in totality, the project complies with the comp plan and is consistent with all land development code, your entire land development code. So with all due respect, the discretion of council is a little constrained from my perspective. But in any event, notably, not only has staff found the project consistent and compatible, but the project complies with the proposed Tampa Heights Code amendments that it's winding its way through the process right now. I think it's about to go in front of the Planning Commission. Specifically, the proposed Tampa Heights Land Development Code recommendations include maximizing utilization of the alley and improving the alley, which this project will have direct access for its parking on the alleyway. And also, another important part that will come up in this discussion, I anticipate later on, is that there's a vesting provision in the proposed land development code changes drafted by the Tampa Heights organization that basically says that if you have an existing lot as of September 1, 2022, that's considered a legal non-conforming lot. I want to talk about the history of the property. Tampa Heights has a long history of kind of gerrymandering and splitting off these lots and recombining them over time. And a lot of it predated the enactment of the city's zoning regulations. So if I could just show you right here. This is the property in question, and it's important that this configuration was created in 2007 by a different property owner. So the third owner down the chain or downstream is actually our client. So our client had absolutely nothing to do with respect to the creation and configuration of these lots. There is a lot that the client owned right here, and in 2020, I believe, he had built a home and sold it off. And I have the dates in my notes here. And then subsequently, after that sale, he then purchased this lot. So the significance of that is there was never any common ownership simultaneously between this lot and the lots we're dealing with tonight. So there was no opportunity for merger of the two lots. And that's important because the city doesn't allow, if there's common ownership of lots and you have a non-conforming lot, okay, and the property's under the same ownership, by operation of law, or automatically the properties merge to create a more conforming lot. So that set of facts never existed. And I have all the title research here to back up and support what I'm telling you here. So that's important, that this lot was always independent from these. Now, the first time this lot was split up was in 1984. That's when this lot appeared on the horizon, okay? So that's kind of the history in a nutshell, and I've got the deeds and all that stuff, and I only have 15 minutes, and I don't think you're that interested, in, you know, but in any event, I'll submit that into the record. The owner of the lot that I just mentioned to you here that I'm pointing to, at one point in time, asked our client to sell a portion of our client's property where the affordable housing unit is intended. However, that never occurred. Obviously, as I mentioned, that would have required making the subject property more non-conforming. You can't split it off under your code. So the long and the short of it with respect to this zoning lot is our client purchased the lot, which originated in 2007. The purchase occurred after the client's sale of the other lot to the east. So merging or combining the lots was a legal impossibility under your code. The PD process is structured and intended to deal with the unique situation that this project presents. The PD, if approved, will provide needed affordable housing in this area. The PD is consistent with the proposed Tampa Heights code changes that I mentioned in terms of alley access, and the lot would be recognized as a legal lot of record. Now, there was some discussion by the Tampa Heights Civic Association of a preference trying to dictate the use of our client's property. And their preference, they articulated, was a mixed-use project. So what we did is we had our engineer lay out a commercial project on this property, and this even assumed multiple waivers from ADA compliance, landscaping, stormwater, and things like that. And the best we could come up with, okay, just in speculation, was a 600 square foot building. And the construction cost, along with land, would be in the range of $2 million. So 600 square feet is the size of someone's garage, you know, or maybe someone's living room. So obviously, it's economically unfeasible to build a commercial project on that property. So there's no point in developing a mixed-use project for the sake of having a 200 square foot gift shop and residential just for the sake of characterizing that as mixed use. But the bottom line is it just doesn't make any sense at all as a property owner. No one in the right mind would do that, a 600 square foot building. It's not large enough for any tenant at all that I can think of, maybe a real estate agent. So right now I'd like to turn it over to Ryan Manassi. He's our Director of Planning and Development at Johnson Pope to go over the site plan, some land use issues, okay? Thank you. Go ahead, Ryan.
Good evening, City Council. Ryan Manassi with Johnson Pope, 401 East Jackson Street. We're happy to be here tonight representing a great project that provides affordable housing. It also has 18 letters of support for the project from the neighborhood. It demonstrates compliance with the City of Tampa land development regulations with full consistency findings from the DRC staff, Planning Commission, and a recommendation for approval from the Architectural Review Commission. And again, the project is not requesting any waivers from the code. Now, bring your attention to the overhead. I'll show you, what I'm showing here is the request again, which is at RS50 and CI to PD plan development, and that's for the residential single-family detached and semi-detached uses. And just to orientate you, the site on screen is outlined in green to give you that orientation of, I like to call it like a Z-shaped lot almost. There's a 12.5-foot platted alley to the west, East Columbus Drive to the south, and North Morgan Street to the east. And again, the green outline shows the unique shape of this parcel or this zoning lot that we're bringing forward for this request. Additionally, there was constraints along Columbus Avenue from a right-of-way taking from previous, and that's basically showing you, you know, the property boundary used to go along here.
Can you please zoom in? I'm sorry,
Oh, yeah,
it's
sure.
not really, thank you.
A little more?
No, that's perfect.
Okay, great. So, I'm sorry, let me get my paper straight. So the right-of-way taking was along this. That's why you have this skew in property line. As you can see, it starts meandering north right there. Additionally, each building is labeled, as Zane mentioned in his report. There's Building A, which is comprised of that single-family detached dwelling. Building B, which is the single-family semi-detached with 2 units, and the units are side by side. Building C, consisting of 3 enclosed parking spaces on the ground floor, with the second level being the single-family detached dwelling unit. And again, that's what's being, to expand on Building C, there's a condition under Note 19 on the site plan, and through the review, we've stated criteria to make that affordable housing. So that is dedicated on the site plan as such. The approval will allow for a total of 4 dwelling units on the zoning lot, which meets Land Use Policy 5.1.6, which allows the project to weigh the density permitted under the Community Commercial 35 designation throughout the entire site. And again, the proposed rezoning is not requesting any waivers. This rezoning meets the requirements of Section 27.136. It promotes the efficient and sustainable use of land and infrastructure. It allows for the integration of different land uses and densities in one development. It provides a procedure which can relate to the type, design, and layout of residential development to a particular site. It acknowledges changing needs, economics, and consumer preferences, and allows for ingenuity and imagination in planning. It encourages flexible land development, which reduces transportation needs, conserves energy, and it will maximize the preservation of natural resources, open space, green space, and historical sites, which this is in the historic district. It promotes and encourages development where appropriate in location, character, and compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood, built environment, and existing geography. It promotes a more desirable living environment, and it, as shown in your staff report, DRC staff concurs with the proposed project is consistent with these land development regulations or criteria across the board. And I know Zane went through this elevation slide, and I'll just go through it briefly. Top is building B, single-family semi-detached use. The middle being building C for parking, for the parking on the ground level and affordable housing dwelling unit.
This is completely unviewable.
Yeah, it's very, very.
It's
faint.
just very faint. We can't see any outside lines at all.
I think the printer ran out of.
Yeah, I mean, you can't see anything. If you look up
It
at
might
this,
be.
if you look up at the screen, you can see what we're talking about.
Yeah, does council have the site plan in front of them that was turned in by staff?
Would you like one to see if that would work on the overhead?
We could try, sure.
Excuse me.
Yeah, thanks, just 'cause.
No problem. Yeah, of course.
The elevations are gonna be back in front of ARC.
Okay. As my time's running, can I have a little bit more time, just because?
Sure.
Okay. Might be too big now. Let's see.
No, that's.
That's
very
much better.
That's better? All right, I'm gonna roll through them, okay? Top is building B, single-family semi-detached. Middle, if we can scroll up to this one, is gonna be building C for the parking on the ground level, affordable housing dwelling above. And then the bottom elevation is building A, which is the single-family semi-detached. And it might be beneficial if we hand you the site plan, or you could see this from what was turned into, if you guys want to circulate that. Maybe just hand it up to them. And these elevations would still have to go back, even though this is, we had a recommendation for approval for the rezoning from the ARC, they would still have to go back through the ARC for further certificate of appropriateness applications. And can you see the Sanborn map on screen?
Yes.
Okay. So the proposed development in green on this Sanborn map is mostly between two contributing historic structures as shown on this map. This development reestablishes structures that are in character with what was previously built on site, the Tampa Heights Historic District, the existing adjacent contributing structures, and the overall historic character of the neighborhood. The lots are currently vacant and undeveloped, which doesn't help with the residential infill needs of Tampa or contribute to the historic environment. And this slide is from the Tampa Heights Guidelines for Massing and Form. In order to maintain existing character of the Tampa Heights Historic District, new buildings should have similar massing and building form to the neighboring buildings. Regarding our proposed rezoning, the structures showing massing that is in form and reflective of its neighbors without replicating them. And again, from the Tampa Heights Guidelines, the proposed buildings are similar in height and width with buildings on adjacent lots. And again, just to point out, the ARC voted on 11/7/2022 to recommend approval of the rezoning request with no conditions. And these are just a few renderings of the buildings that our client was able to supply. Obviously, again, it would still have to go through ARC review and approval for certificate of appropriatenesses, but this is for building A, which is a single-family detached. This would be building B, which is that semi-detached, the 2 units on the left and right. And then building C, which is that affordable housing unit that we're stipulating through the PD condition above the 3 enclosed garage spaces.
Councilwoman Hurd.
What do you mean by affordable housing? What is the AMI you're looking at?
80 to 120 AMI, it's stipulated as note 19 on the site plan for a duration of time and the term, which is reflective of the housing department according to the affordable housing.
So this would be a rental property, not a purchasable property?
Correct. This would be tied, because the way the site's laid out, the unit 1 and 2, the semi-detached, this would be the structure that's above their parking, and it would be rentable for, according to the stipulations on the note in the site plan.
So, but that stipulation's only 5 years.
Correct. That's what so there's no requirement for us to provide that, but the applicant is going to provide that. We're not asking for a density bonus or anything like that, that typically you see with rezoning projects. They try to get a density bonus by providing affordable housing. I mean, if you look at it this way, it's 4 units. One of those units are going to be affordable. Basic math, it's 25%, so we're well over 10%. What the code would give you a bonus. We don't even need that bonus, but we're providing it because we think it's a good project and it helps out with the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Please continue.
Thank you. So on screen, this yellow shaded area, and everybody can see this? Okay. The yellow shaded area shown is the subject site, with the white being some schools or churches in the area. The blue shaded area is residential uses, and the non-shaded area are typically commercial uses or zones. All uses to the east of the platted alley are residential, and just to point out, injecting some other type of use would be incompatible with the historical development pattern, as well as the currently built environment of that block. And what I'm saying there is, if you could see everything east of this alley, this blue continues on, and then southeast as well as residential. The proposed development further enhances the residential character of the neighborhood and maintains the history of this corner by reviving the residential dwellings in similar location as shown on the Sanborn map I previously showed you. All staff reviewing agencies have found the project consistent with the City of Tampa's Land Development Code as well as the comprehensive plan. The project supports the growing needs for affordable residential infill development within the City of Tampa by providing different types of housing to include affordable housing through a PD condition on the site plan. Additionally, the proposed rezoning is not requesting any waivers nor requesting a bonus provision agreement for increased density, as I stated, like you see on some rezonings, trying to get more density. It meets several policies from the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and Mark and I are available for any questions, and we respectfully request your approval.
Any question for the petitioners?
No.
Is there anyone in the public in chambers that wishes to speak to file number REZ 22-125?
Good evening, City Council. I'm here representing Josh Tebby, who is a landowner immediately adjacent to this project. And we have voiced our concerns with the applicant. We've had a Zoom meeting with them as well, and everything that I'm going to say to you this evening has already been expressed to them. One of the most important elements is that in the PD criteria, it says to promote the efficient and sustainable use of land and infrastructure with careful consideration of potential adverse impacts. And I'm going to show you what the potential adverse impact is. And again, we've discussed this with the applicant as well. Do I need to move that up?
No, down.
Mr. Tebby owns this property, and as Mr. Bentley referenced earlier, this section is where they're proposing a parking garage and a single-family unit. They're also proposing that a connection 10 feet wide be allowed between the property on Columbus Drive, which we really don't have a problem with anything on Columbus Drive. The issue is utilizing this lot, which is a non-conforming lot. They also reference that in the future it might become conforming through a code amendment. Currently, it is non-conforming. It was done deliberately, and I don't know exactly who did it, but let me show you visually what that is. This property here is Tebby's property. This property here is where they proposed a parking garage and the single-family unit. I can't imagine how that could be considered to be anything other than an adverse impact on Tebby's here. One of the other provisions, and I'm going back to the land use provision that was cited in the staff report. It says, due to the urban village, the subject site is eligible to be considered for it. It doesn't say it is considered. It says it may be eligible. And my contention is that the council, it's up to you all to decide whether or not it's eligible for the increased density to blend the non-conforming lot with the conforming lots that they have on Columbus Drive. It also says that you shall weigh the floor area density over the entire site, and I would offer to you that it has no density provision. It is non-conforming. It was created deliberately. They've created their own hardship, and now they're transferring the parking and the traffic associated with that project onto an alley that's immediately adjacent to my client's property. It says again, the Planning Commission has reviewed the application and found no adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. I think that they've been focusing on Columbus Drive and not on this out parcel in the back. And that's a key element. Their project doesn't work without this utilization of parking coming off the street and then taking a 10-foot wide access point between those two properties. And I would ask you, let me show you on the site plan here. Show you on the site plan. They're talking about a walkway here in the backyard essentially of this property, which is a single-family residence. It doesn't make sense. We respectfully request that they come back, change their plans, put the parking where it belongs off of Columbus Drive, and not introduce that use into the rear of another adjacent single-family residence. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to speak to agenda item number 5, file number REC 22-125? Seeing none, Mr. Seal, are you with us?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chairman.
You wanted to speak to...
Can you hear me this time? Thank you. I have not been sworn.
Okay, we need to swear you in, please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to note that I was online on the prior agenda item, but was muted by staff, so I've been here. Dear Tampa City Council, the Tampa Heights Civic Association Board unanimously opposes REZ 22-125 and asks that you deny this application. First, Mr. Bentley is in no position to articulate the intent and contents of the proposed Tampa Heights Overlay District. He has publicly opposed the process and refused to discuss this community-driven initiative with us. The new counter-argument tonight of the unviability of commercial uses on the site clearly ignores the proposed reduction of commercial parking minimums in this district, which would allow for a larger commercial structure to be built. Furthermore, his understanding of how alleys are supposed to be used is incorrect, as well as the assertion of this vesting non-conforming lots. The high quantity of surrounding property owners who supposedly support this project has not been submitted for the public record for verification of property ownership as well. Both properties fronting Columbus Drive are zoned CI, commercial intensive, with a future land use of CC 35. The planning intent is clear that these are to be intended to be built for commercial or mixed use. The Tampa Heights neighborhood plan adopted by City Council in 2003 calls for this area of Columbus Drive around Tampa Street and Florida Avenue intersections to become a thriving mixed-use town center. The fact that the existing zoning and future land use step down from CI to RS 50 and from CC 35 to R10 respectively east of Morgan Street upholds the intent of the neighborhood plan. Rezoning this property to a single-family use under PD is not the highest and best use intended under these 3 planning documents. It's also a detrimental action to walkability. We've seen an erosion of commercially zoned properties on commercial corridors turned to residential only. As commercial sites become further spread apart, they become less walkable. While this may not be grounds for the rezoning denial due to the weakness in the comp plan, council should be aware that these practices are counter to the city's Vision Zero goals. Crucially, this site plan and the accompanying DRC report do not note that a waiver is required from City Code 22-282 9C1, single-family attached design standards, which reads, the ground floor entrances or front doors to dwelling units should face street right-of-way, not including alleys. The northernmost lot contains a unit above the garages, which is noted as single-family attached on the rezoning plans. In talking with staff, they've allowed the garage apartment or condo that is being built above the garage to be classified as single-family detached. This is how we understand that the code was twisted to avoid the waiver. Allowing this sets a serious precedent to how that can be interpreted. I'd like to also add the first iteration of this project was a special use one, was denied by the ARC. They denied the case in April of 2022 for the reasons of inconsistency of site orientation, coverage, and massing. That case was tied to special use application SU1 2222. Because the applicant's SU1 approval was impossible without the ARC approval, they have pivoted to pursue a rezoning. However, the site plan did not change substantially, nor is it compatible with the surrounding development pattern of Columbus Drive. The single-family home proposed at 212 East Columbus Drive is oriented the same way as prior and takes up a similar mass with the small change of the addition of a wraparound porch. The architecture is oriented to Morgan, while most other adjacent structures are oriented towards Columbus. The ARC's recent approval of this REZ is not only baffling, but inconsistent with their previous ruling and should not be the basis of rezoning approval. Thank you for your time. I'm Brian Seal with the Tampa Heights Civic Association.
Thank you very much, Mr. Seal. Petitioner, rebuttal.
Just a couple of comments, council members. I don't want to go tit for tat. There's no point in doing that. I think you get the big picture here is the fundamental, I think, problem that the association has is the use of the property. And I think you're aware that an entire city block has just been recently approved with a plan amendment to UMU 60, I believe, for a real legitimate mixed-use project. And I think, Ryan, you've got that, don't you? Okay, so that's going through the process here, and you might have seen the TVO news article. I mean, you guys are pretty involved, we're involved in this as well. So there's really no need for this mixed-use project, 10,000 square feet, kind of meandering its way between residential development. With respect to this comment that we oppose Tampa Heights proposed land development code provisions, we've never taken a position. They've never reached out to us, even though they represented they would. So we don't have a position. What Mark Bentley thinks about it is not. The point is, when I was talking about the intent, it speaks for itself. If it says, thou shalt use the alley and improve alleys in the code, I know what that says, and that's what I told City Council, that we're doing exactly what's been advocated in these proposed regulations. In terms of confirmation of the persons in support, we submitted letters in support with their addresses, so you could easily get on the property appraiser's website and confirm that. And Mr. Seal's very knowledgeable about the process, so that, you know, I'm surprised he would bring that point up. He also said the city staff overlooked something, and we actually needed a waiver for building C. And however, there's no design criteria for single family detached under your code, so that's false. Talks about the ARC case. He said he was baffled by that. We went to the ARC. They spent a lot of time reviewing this and made a recommendation. City Council, you approved the rezoning along with the attached elevations, which are just generalized, and we have to go back in front of the ARC and get into the details, some of the things that Mr. Seal apparently was concerned about. Now, with respect to Mr. Michelini, I thought it was interesting in item number 4, he was a great advocate for the alley and using the alley and access to the alley and all that. In this case, I guess it's kind of different. He has a different perspective since he has a client who he wants to represent. But it does meet the PD criteria. You've had 2 professional staffs weigh in saying exactly meets the criteria set forth in the Land Development Code. With respect to the lot, he called it a series of lot. It's one cohesive, non-conforming lot. There's nothing we can do with it. We didn't create it. My client didn't create it. He bought it that way. It was created 15 years ago. Okay, so it has to be developed in its present form. And how do you do that? You know, in this unique manner that we did. And we maximize the development on that. And there's a need for housing in that area. And we're trying to fulfill that need. He said the walkway doesn't make sense. Having a walkway is no different than having a walkway at your house to your garage. That's just how it functions. You know, there's nothing unique about that. So, in summary, we have complied with all codes and regulations per the recommendations of your professional planning staffs. No waivers have been sought. All staffs and ARC have found the project consistent with the city codes, historic preservation policies, and the comp plan. And as I explained early on, the numerous stakeholders who kind of reached out to us, and it wasn't very difficult. A lot of these neighbors were excited, so we didn't have to twist any arms to get the 20 letters in support, or 19, or whatever it is. And they rendered their support with the understanding that it would be a residential project. So, and I think I made it clear to you that it's virtually impossible to make a legitimate mixed-use development on this property if you try and meet ADA, buffering, stormwater, parking, et cetera. It's just not going to happen because of the configuration of the property, and it doesn't really make any economic sense. So that being said, we would respectfully request that City Council approve the project. If you have any questions, I'll certainly try to answer them. Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
When did your clients purchase this property?
In 2020, it's in my notes, May of 20, well, there are two properties. The one we're talking about, the zoning lot, I think May 27th, 2020. A week after he sold the other lot on May 20th, 2020. Okay, then acquired this lot a week later. So the lot to the east that Mr. Michelini's client represents, my client is a developer. He built a home, sold it to that gentleman on May 20th, and then this property became available, and he closed on it right away the following week.
Can you please put up the site plan?
Okay?
If I put the other one, you may not be able to see it, so.
No, the smaller one was fine. This is fine, however you want to do it. So you have an alley there, right?
Correct.
And then you have this building above the garage. How did those people reach the street?
Reach this street?
Yeah. How did they
They have
how do they
access.
reach Columbus?
They would reach through the alley, but then they have the pedestrian pathway would be here.
Okay. Is that alley used right now?
Yes.
How wide is it?
It's platted at 12 and a half feet.
Okay. Because my biggest question about all of this is, where did this person put out their garbage?
This one right here? That'll be further reviewed by Solid Waste Department at permitting, whether they pull their cans out. It's not gonna be a solid waste enclosure. So all these units would have typical, probably what everybody has at their single-family home, which would be the cart rollout.
So where are they gonna put their garbage?
Where I keep saying stormwater, where solid waste would determine whether or not they either go down the alley or they would, I'm assuming down the alley. I mean, you'd have to meet again, solid waste is a department that would review that at permitting. They determine what their trucks and where their trucks service.
I don't know that a garbage truck can make it down a 12-foot alley.
It's happening right now up and down the alley. I'll show you an aerial photograph.
And it has been reviewed by solid waste for zoning. They found it consistent as well, so, and staff can.
They get, I don't believe garbage is collected on that alley.
Well, Ms. Hurtak, with all due respect, your solid waste department said they approved the project and they said it's acceptable. So however, we're gonna work that out with
This
them.
one?
Yeah. Here's the alley right here. It runs all the way through.
I'm just saying. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I need to ask a question of staff, please. Mr. Hussein, do you know how this lot became non-conforming? At what time it became non-conforming?
As the applicant bought it in 2022, as I understand, the lot to the northwest is needed to have this PD to have this to be a lot, correct?
Thank you, but I'm trying to figure out, that lot had to have been non-conforming for years before the applicant bought it. Do you know when it became non-conforming?
I do not know the year, no, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, but I'm just trying to figure out if it's non-conforming, even before the purchaser was considering buying, how did it become that way? And why wasn't it retaken into other lots that are around it, or that one lot? Ms. Belling.
I'm not going to solve the riddle here. These lots are just, they go back and forth. But this particular lot, it became this configuration in 2007. Then it was sold again. Then it was sold to my client. So it's non-conforming with respect to, obviously, frontages and things like that. But with respect to size, it exceeds the minimum lot size for the zoning districts that apply to it. Okay? So it has non-conforming characteristics, is what I'd say.
Mr. Bentley, I'm not giving testimony, and I'm not trying to, but that was a rhetorical question. At some point, sometime, some surrounding lot was bought and sold and cut, and that's how this little chunk became non-conforming.
Yeah. We pulled the
Mr. Bentley,
okay.
Again, I'm not trying to give evidence, but at some point in time, either that lot gets absorbed back into another property, or it's going to have to stay non-conforming until we have another land use policies. I just made a statement.
I know, and that's why we have the PD process, thank God. Okay.
Thank you. Councilman Carlson.
If I could just follow up on that. Mr. Bentley or staff, could you tell us if you couldn't connect those properties, what could you do with that non-conforming property? You couldn't build anything there?
Assuming let's just for the discussion purposes, they're legal non-conforming lots, yeah, you could. You could build almost essentially what we're talking about tonight. Now, the hiccup is where do you put the parking for the middle lot, okay? And that's what we're struggling with when we came up with this creative design. Let's put it on the lot adjacent to the alley and let them walk from the middle two units.
And sorry if you don't have to answer that, you don't want to answer like a hypothetical, but just that one non-conforming part in back, without getting any waivers or anything, what could you build right now if that was a separate spot?
Under the existing zoning, and we're on the same page as the legal non-conforming lot, I guess you could, here again, I'm a lawyer, not a planner, but I guess you could, it appears to be you could develop some type of residential on that property. But Ryan, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I believe the code addresses, and staff may be able to confirm it, but the code addresses non-conforming lots, so it would have to go through that review and see, what it could be entitled for. And I'd just like to make one quick statement is, the only process that this project can go through is this PD rezoning process. That's why the PD process is in place for these oddly, uniquely shaped lots. I think we're talking a lot of hypotheticals right now, but when it boils down to it, the lot is one zoning lot at this present time.
I guess the question, and maybe staff could reconfirm or not, but the difference between if that lot was separate and if it's connected to this is only the 10-foot pathway. Correct. Would that be correct? Like they could build the exact same building that they're proposing, but the only difference because they're connected is a 10-foot pathway.
Zane, you're saying development coordination. Upon that request, we'd have to look at the staff or the site plan, and they may need waivers. They may need something to actually be able to have a structure on that lot, a non-conforming lot.
Thank you.
Councilman Hurtak.
Zane,
Yes.
why, could there be parking, from Columbus to those attached units?
From Columbus. Jonathan,
Do you have anything for transportation, sir?
Oh, sorry, wrong person.
Yeah,
Yes,
Jonathan, this
transportation.
Yeah, Jonathan Scott, Transportation and Planning. You could get access off that Columbus, it's just that it's unique property, you know, but they could come off there and get access if they wanted to.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's
a lot of-
possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
Okay,
It
great.
wouldn't be ideal though, but, yeah.
But it's possible. Thank you.
Any other questions?
do you want to give Mr. Bentley, Ms. Bentley, did you want to have any last word as a result of those comments?
No, I think I worn out my welcome. Thank you.
Motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Councilman Vieira? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Vieira.
I move an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 210 East Columbus Drive and 2702, 2706 North Morgan Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification CI, commercial intensive, and RS50 residential, single family to PD plan development residential, single family detached, and semi-detached, providing an effective date.
Second. Sheet, please.
No. Yes.
Yes.
I'm joking. Of course. Thank you.
We have a motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Goods. Roll call vote.
Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak,
No.
Carlson. Yes. Goods,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
No.
Citro.
No.
Motion passed with Hurtak, Maniscalco, Citro voting no. Second reading and adoption will be held on March 2nd, 2023 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Agenda item number 6, file number REZ 22-87.
Thank you so much, Chairman, Citro and Council, LaShawn Dock, Development Coordination. Council, this item is for the property located at 1200 North West Shore Boulevard. The applicant is represented by Cammie Corbett. The request is to rezone the property from OP1, Office Professional, and MAP1, Municipal Airport, to PD, Plan Development, and this is to allow the uses of retail sales, residential multifamily, and also restaurant. On the staff report provided, the restaurant use was not listed, so that is a correction. Restaurant will be added to this mixed-use project. I'm gonna turn it over to the Planning Commission for their report, and I'll come back and give my report. Thank you.
Danny Collins, with your Planning Commission staff, have been sworn in. Our next case is within the West Shore Planning District, the West Shore Business District, and more specifically in the Tampa International Airport area. Charles B. Williams Park is the closest recreation facility, being located approximately 1 mile southeast of the subject site. Transit is adjacent to the subject site along Northwest Shore Boulevard, which is a transit emphasis corridor. Portions of the site are within the Colsi Hazard area and a level A evacuation zone. Here's an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. Subject site is shown here. It's outlined in the purple color. It's just north of the intersection of Northwest Shore Boulevard and West Cypress Street. North Occident Street is here. There's predominantly non-residential uses along Northwest Shore Boulevard. Here is the adopted future land use map. The subject site is within the RMU 100 future land use designation, which is one of the most intensive land use categories in the city with regard to residential intensity and density. The category allows development up to 100 dwelling units per acre or 3.5 FAR. The RMU 100 is to the north, east and south of the subject site. This area here, west of the subject site, is within the MAP future land use designation, which is the municipal airport land use category. And then we have some areas shown in blue that represent public, semi-public lands in the city. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found it consistent with the overall policy direction of the comprehensive plan. The subject site is located on North West Shore Boulevard, a transit emphasis corridor, which is suitable for redevelopment and intensification. Transit investment has occurred within proximity to the subject site, with several transit stops located within proximity of the site that provide service to East Tampa, downtown Tampa, West Shore, and the Tampa International Airport. The request is consistent with the Compact City Forum Strategy, which seeks to promote housing at densities that promote walking and transit near employment concentrations, residential services, and amenities. The PD proposes a 2.38 FAR, which is well below the FAR that can be considered on the site under the RMU 100. Again, under the RMU 100, it allows up to a 3.5 FAR. The PD is proposing a 2.38. The PD addresses the mixed-use corridor policies by orienting buildings toward the adjacent public rights-of-way and providing pedestrian connections throughout the site. The proposed internal pedestrian connections will help ensure pedestrians can safely access the amenities and retail located on the site. The proposed rezoning supports many of the policies in the comprehensive plan as it relates to housing the city's population. The comprehensive plan encourages new housing on vacant and underutilized land to ensure an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations. The request will add additional housing within the West Shore Planning District. Portions of the site are within the coastal hazard area and a level A evacuation zone. Rezonings in the coastal planning area that increase the number of residential units shall mitigate the impact on shelter space demands based on the shelter space level of service. The applicant shall continue to coordinate any hurricane mitigation payments with Hillsborough County and the City of Tampa at the time of permitting. The comprehensive plan promotes the West Shore overlay standards due to the site being within the West Shore Business District and West Shore Overlay District. The Planning Commission staff encourages the applicant to continue to work with the city to meet these standards. Based on these considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Thank you.
Thank you again, Council LaShawn, Dock Development Coordination. And this rezoning request to a PD, Plan Development, would allow for the development of 7,502 square feet of retail sales space and 398 residential multifamily units on site, along with the use of the restaurant on site. So this site is fairly large, over 4 acres, as mentioned earlier by Planning Commission staff. Danny mentioned the site contains approximately 300 feet of frontage and 622 feet in depth. So this is the site plan for the site. This site is also located in the West Shore Overlay District, and development must comply with the West Shore Overlay standards unless they are waived within a part of this PD. And you'll see that there are waivers that are listed on the PD, which I'll review with you shortly. This subject site, located on West Shore Boulevard, is classified as a priority pedestrian street. The rezoning plan that is before you meets the standards for the priority pedestrian street classification within the code. So this is the site that is located here. To orient you on this site plan, this is West Shore Boulevard. This is Occident, which is on the west side of the site. So what is proposed is a new private drive, which will be located here with access on West Shore. This drive would make that connection to the west to Occident. So this is the, you can see the delineation of the zoning districts. This yellow highlighted line shows you the existing OP1, Office Professional 1 zoning versus the MAP1 zoning. So given the proximity to the airport, this was reviewed by Tampa International Airport, and they found the request consistent. You'll notice the placement of the building is within the portion of the site that is the existing OP1. The residential, the 7-story tower would be located on site. The open space, the dog park, these green space areas are located on the west end of the site. Your commercial is located here on the east with the outdoor seating areas proposed adjacent to the sidewalk that would be provided, which meets the West Shore standards. So vehicular access has a drop off here, a circular drive. You would enter the garage here, and then there's some parking that's located there on site. So this is the zoning atlas. So this is the property identified in red. This is West Shore Boulevard. This is Cypress Street. And this is Occident, which is the west portion of this site. You can see the OP1 zoning, and then the MAP1 exists to the west. And then you have CI, commercial intensive, and then your PDs with the commercial uses further south on the site. So when I show you pictures, we'll go to the east of the site, the west, and then we'll go south, work our way east, and then north. Here's an elevation. This is the south elevation. The top picture is the east elevation, and then the bottom is the west elevation. And then this is the north elevation. And I have pictures of the site. So this is the eastern portion of the site. Here's another view of the site, a clearer picture of it on West Shore. So this is the western end of the site. So this is the view that's on Occident. This is also along the west. This gives you a view looking north on Occident. The site in this picture is to the right. This is also west of the site, commercial use. That continues west, and then we'll head south of the site. If I can separate these. So this is the hotel use that's located south of the site. This has the access on Occident. It does not connect through to West Shore. And this is heading further south. This is southeast of the site. This is at the corner of Cypress. And then we swing back around. This is east of the site, the commercial that exists along West Shore. This is another view, just showing the view looking north on West Shore. This is also north of the site. And then this is swinging back. That is directly north of the site. The DRC staff reviewed the request and finds the request inconsistent, and that is due to the waivers that are requested. The waivers are relating to the natural resources related code and transportation. There are site plan modifications to be made between first and second reading. Also, there are additional changes that have already been discussed with staff prior to hearing that will be incorporated on the revision sheet. So what I'm going to do is, prior to a motion being made, is provide you with an updated revision sheet. And those are changes to be made between first and second reading. And I'm available if you have any questions, council.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Cami Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward & Henderson, representing the applicant Trammell Crow. We're really excited to bring another redevelopment project to the West Shore area north of Kennedy. I think a couple months ago you heard 1501 North West Shore, which was a similar multifamily mixed-use development. And we are proposing a similar development here this evening. With any redevelopment project, we do require waivers, and so I'd like to ask Mr. Randy Cohen from Cohen and Company to address our transportation-related waivers, and Mr. Ricky Paterica from Dark Moss to address our buffering and screening and tree retention waivers.
Good evening, Council. Randy Cohen, 4121 West Cypress Street. I have been sworn. I have the job of addressing 3 transportation waivers. These are all typical waivers you've seen before. overhead. The first one is a small parking waiver. We actually discussed parking ratios and the trends towards less parking for multifamily projects 2 months ago when the 1515 West Shore multifamily was proposed. Basically, we continue to see trends of parking ratios going down, hovering around 1.4 as an average these days. Our code requires about a 1.9, 1.8, depending upon the type of product. I had the privilege of working on a parking study, accumulation study for Altus, which is 504 Grand Central Avenue, reviewed by the city of Tampa, where we determined what their actual parking ratio was once they were constructed and occupied. Found a parking ratio of 1.39, which netted them about 100 spaces that they could provide for public parking within the Hyde Park area, North Hyde Park area. 1515 West Shore, we presented that. They asked for a 13.4% waiver, and that was approved by council after consideration. This particular project asks for a 12% waiver, which still has a very high rate. Oh, sorry. There we are. This is Altus, where their actual parking ratio is 1.39. 1515 West Shore that was approved in December. They ended up with their waiver with a parking ratio of 1.44. 1200 West Shore before you today would end up with a parking ratio of 1.76, so very ample parking. They're asking for a very small waiver. Second waiver we have from a transportation perspective, and I'll make sure this one is more appropriately oriented. This is Occident, which is a service road other than the hotel here and the hotel here. This is predominantly industrial. This is the rear of the subject property, which is the old Ramada Inn. We have a vehicle maneuvering waiver for a couple of dumpsters that are right here. This street currently has a vehicle maneuvering issue for the perpendicular parking spaces here. They also have the need for vehicle maneuvering in the public right-of-way for a solid waste facility here, as well as parking here. When you look in this neighborhood, you see lots of things that have maneuvering waivers that are required for them. So not unusual, very low volume street, non-residential in nature. Finally, we have what is a blooming waiver for residential products simply because our code requires loading berths for all large buildings as it should. In West Shore, we only require one loading berth per large building as opposed to the code's multiple berth requirements. However, it is a 12-foot by 60-foot loading berth. That is for a large commercial allied van type moving, which we do not see many of those trucks anymore, especially in multifamily. Tampa has a code criteria for a small local loading berth, which is 30 feet, which we actually have 3 of those. However, we do not have a 60-foot, so we're asking for a waiver from 60 feet to 30 feet. I did a quick inventory of a number of entities, CNET, Moving Method, Forbes Home, etc. What are the type trucks that actually go to multifamily and to retail? We don't even require a loading berth for retail in this project because of its size. But I went through to find out what are the typical vehicle size used. They're all less than 30 feet. So we're asking for that waiver down to a 30-foot loading berth. We're actually providing a 35-foot loading berth just to provide a little extra room. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Good evening, Council. Ricky Pederica, 308 East 7th Avenue. I have been sworn. 2 natural resource waivers. First is for retention. The West Shore District requires 25% of protected trees to be retained. We currently provide 10%, as noted up here. The plan request is for 5%, just because there are so few trees that something can happen in development. We don't want one tree to trigger something in permitting, so requested a safety factor. Since this inventory was created, we were able to preserve some additional trees in the west portion of the site near Occident, shown here. These additional 7 trees increase our actual retention percentage to 20%, so waivers still needed. And we're going to request 15%. If we used the newly updated weighted retention percentage that came in the 2022, or the January 2020 cycle of code amendment that was adopted in October 2022, we come up with 39% of retention, which would exceed the West Shore retention waiver. Staff acknowledged this, we had several conversations, but because this was submitted, this PD was submitted under the pre-October 2020, we're proceeding with the waiver request, but adjusting it to 15% with this preservation. The other waiver is for buffers on the north and south. Currently, the code requires 15 feet, 15-foot buffer on the north because of multifamily adjacent to a C use, and also 15 feet on the south, multifamily adjacent to a C use, which is effectively a 6-foot masonry wall and turf only. On the north, the landscape architects provided native trees on the north side of a sidewalk, and then a mix of native shrubs and ground cover on adjacent as a foundation plant to the building. The staff is considering the buffer 5 feet because of that sidewalk, but effectively we're providing what I like to think of as a modified C buffer that includes trees that would not normally be required, includes plants that would not normally be required, and with the sidewalk, ironically, becomes a pedestrian amenity versus just a yard and a wall. On the south, a similar tactics used, but what's happening there is the existing curb line that was maintained and curb cuts on either side that was maintained from the original development is kept here, and that is what's defining the width of the buffer. Again, all that would be required is a wall and grass. We're providing, holding that curb line and providing oak trees, shade trees, and native ground covers and shrubs as a supplement or replacement to mitigate them. I apologize. Sorry, Council. And that's, though while this is only half the site, these buffer conditions are consistent across the entire area that the buffer's requested. And I'll return the presentation back to Mrs. Corbett.
Amy Corbett again for the record. I think that very thoroughly explained the reason why we have these waivers, and I just wanted to point out too, only one of those waivers is a waiver to the West Shore Overlay District. The rest of the building design will comply with the West Shore Overlay District. I only received one phone call from the surrounding neighbors, and that was Mr. Andy Scaglione owns a property directly to the south, and he indicated that he had no objection to the application. And so with that, we would respectfully request your approval.
Any questions for the petitioner? Thank you. Is there anyone in chambers who wishes to speak to agenda item number 6, file number REZ 22-87? Seeing none, do we have anyone online?
Sir.
We have a motion closed by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Aye. Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. This is an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 1200 North West Shore Boulevard in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classifications OP1 office professional and MAP1 municipal airport to PD plan development residential multifamily retail sales and restaurant providing an effective date. I also see that in compliance with the applicable goals, objectives, and policies in the comprehensive plan, for example, the proposed uses and intensity are consistent with the urban development pattern anticipated in this area of the city, consistent with land use policy 814.1, and encourages new housing on underutilized land to ensure an adequate housing supply is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations, consistent with land use policy 9.2.1 and housing policies 1.3.1, 1.3.3, and 1.3.4. I also find that there is compliance with the Land Development Code in section 27-136 because the proposed development as shown on the site promotes or encourages development that is appropriate in location, character, and compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood. Also, the proposed use promotes the efficient and sustainable use of land and infrastructure. And any waivers, I find in compliance with section 27-139-4, specifically the design of the proposed development is unique and therefore in need of the waivers. The requested waivers will not substantially interfere with or injure the rights of others whose property would be affected by the waivers. And that concludes my motion.
And is that revisions trained first and second, or?
I actually, Ms. Doc filed with the clerk a revision sheet dated February 8th, 2023, if this could be done between first and second reading.
Yes, the revision sheet between now and second reading as well.
The revised revision sheet.
The revised revision sheet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who was the seconder?
I did.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote.
Goods,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Pertak,
Yes.
Carlson, Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on March 2nd, 2023 at 9:30 a.m.
Agenda item number 7. File number RZ 22-109.
Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. This is a proposed rezoning at 2713 West Columbus Drive from PD to RS50. I'll now pass it along to our Planning Commission.
Danny Collins, with your Planning Commission staff, I've been sworn in. Our next case is within the Central Tampa Planning District, and more specifically, the West Tampa Urban Village. The closest public transit stop is located approximately 264 feet west of the subject site, the intersection of West Columbus Drive and North Havana Avenue. This route is serviced by Heart Route 15, which provides access to West Shore and the Network Park Transfer Center. Subject site is within Evacuation Zone E. Here's an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. You'll see the subject site's on the north side of Columbus Drive, between Havana Avenue and North Tampania Avenue. The subject site is adjacent to residential uses to the north. There are some a mixture of residential uses along Columbus Drive and then non-residential uses as you move towards Havana Avenue. The subject site is recognized under the Community Mixed Use 35 Future Land Use designation. That designation allows development up to a 2.0 FAR or 35 dwelling units per acre. The CMU 35 is predominantly found on the north side of Columbus Drive. Directly to the south is the Community Commercial 35 designation. And then to the north of the subject site is Residential 10. There is an alley that separates the properties just north of the subject site from the Residential 10. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the application, found no adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. This portion of West Columbus Drive between North Havana Avenue and North Tampania Avenue contains parcels recognized under the Community Mixed Use 35 designation. The segment has an existing density of 9.36 dwelling units per acre. The existing density is 26% of the density that can be considered under the Community Mixed Use 35 designation. Under the CMU 35 designation, the site can be considered for a maximum of 3 dwelling units. Planning Commission staff reviewed the lot widths along the segment of West Columbus Drive. Lot widths range from approximately 49 feet to 108 feet, with the majority of the lot widths being approximately 50 feet. The lot width of the subject site is 50 feet per the submitted submitted survey. Taking into consideration the existing block density and range of lot widths along the segment of West Columbus Drive, Planning Commission staff finds the request will provide a residential development that will be built within the existing street block and lot configuration of the neighborhood. In conclusion, the proposed rezoning supports many of the policies in the comprehensive plan as it relates to housing the city's population. The comprehensive plan encourages new housing on vacant and underutilized land to ensure an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations. The request will also maintain the stability while expanding opportunities for housing choices in the West Tampa urban village. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? Thank you.
Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. I'll share the aerial view of the property. As you see the property right here outlined in red, to the north you'll have West Ivy Street, to the east you'll have North Tampania Avenue, to the west you'll have North Havana Avenue, and this lot is along West Columbus. To the south you'll have West St. Joseph Street. To the north, south, east, and west of the property are all residential single-family detached units. Currently, the site is vacant at this time. The subject property contains a lot area of 4,700 square feet. Now, although this does not meet the minimum lot requirements of the RS50 zoning, which is 5,000 square feet, this lot can be rezoned RS50 due to being in the West Tampa overlay, where a lot existing by plat or deed as of 2004 is considered a lot of record. The lot has a width of 49.96 feet and a lot length of 93.87 feet. As you see, it is along that way of West Columbus Drive and in between North Havana Avenue and North Tampania Avenue. As I went out to the site and took pictures, I'll show you what is existing. This is the vacant lot as is, as you see the public notice sign. To the west you have residential single family, and you have a mix of commercial and residential single family along the west of West Columbus. To the east, you have residential single family and residential single family along the east side of West Columbus. To the southeast, you'll see more residential single family. And directly south of the site, you'll have residential single family detached. Development Coordination and Compliance staff has reviewed the application and finds the overall request to be consistent with the Land Development Code. Should be the pleasure of City Council to approve this case. This being a Euclidean, no site plan is needed and there's no review sheet. I'm here for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Seeing none, petitioner?
Hi, my name is Carrie Alger, and the address of the property is 2713 West Columbus Drive. And my reason here today is to get your permission to rezone from commercial to residential so I can build my home. And that's why I'm here today. Okay?
Any questions for the petitioner?
None.
Do you know the square footage of your property? Do you know, what is the front footage and the depth?
I don't know.
Mr. Hussein?
If I remember, it's 49 and a half by 90 or something like that.
Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. The lot area is 4,700 square feet. The width is 49.96 feet, and the length is 93.87 feet.
And this is conforming to a 50?
This can be rezoned RS50 due to being in the West Tampa overlay, correct?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Any other questions for the petitioner or for staff? Is there anyone in chambers who wishes to speak to agenda item number 7, file number REZ 22-109?
Hello, my name is Danielle Stuckey, 9115 North Franklin Street.
Stuckey, I'm sorry, have you been sworn in?
I have been sworn in.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm currently enrolled in my final year at St. Petersburg College, pursuing my degree in public policy and administration. My honest reason for speaking today is to satisfy a requirement for that degree, but also because I truly believe that the aforementioned proposal should be approved. In my research, I found that application number REZ 22-109, filed by applicant, was not only submitted in timely fashion, but was also found to be consistent with the City of Tampa's Code of Ordinances, according to the rezoning staff report filed by the Development Review and Compliance staff. In quick summary, the applicant requests to rezone the property located at 2713 West Columbus Drive from its current status as a public development zone and instead repurpose and rezone this land so that it falls within resident single-family 50 so that it may be used for residential purposes. In current time, the property in question is vacant. Furthermore, the property is mostly surrounded by either single-family residences or other commercial properties. This is important to note, as I'm sure you are all aware, a major requirement for approval of such applications is that the property should be minimally disruptive to adjacent areas, nor should it disturb the peace of the environment it will be placed or zoned within. Considering the applicant wishes to utilize the property for the same purpose as the majority of the surrounding buildings and structures, this should not be an issue. Furthermore, as stated within the rezoning staff report, quote, the site is located within the community mixed-use 35 future land use designation, which allows for the consideration of medium intensity/density horizontal and vertical mixed-use, single-use, general commercial, and residential uses, unquote. The proposed zoning district RS-50 is consistent with the underlying future land use designation per the consistency matrix located within the Land Development Code. Additionally, the Planning Commission reviewed the application and all its supplemental material and found that the project, if approved, would result in very minimal negative impacts to the surrounding area. So you don't have to take my word for it. The direct quote located within the Planning Commission report stated the following. Planning Commission staff finds that the potential for one unit through approval of this request will allow for compatible infill development in an area planned for 35 dwelling units per acre. So in closing, I'd like to reiterate the basic facts. Application RAS 22109 satisfies all the requirements set forth by the City of Tampa. Second, the applicant submitted the request in a timely manner, along with enough supplemental material to substantiate her proposal. And lastly, the proposal itself, if carried out, does not seem to pose a major negative impact on the City of Tampa. And has been labeled consistent by the Planning Commission as well as the Development and Review and Compliance staff. For those reasons, I do believe it would be beneficial for the application to be approved. Thank you for your time.
Are we hiring?
Are you? Please.
Ms. Doc and staff, I'm sure she can get a few references up here. Very well done. Send us a note on how well you did with this class, please.
Thank you. I'll let you know. It's my last class. I should graduate soon. So.
Staff? Thank you. Boy, any other people in chamber, any other person in chamber, tough act to follow, that wants to speak on agenda item number 7? And I do not see anybody online.
Motion to close.
Second. We have a motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goos. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Yes, file number REZ 22-109, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 2713 West Columbus Drive in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification PD planned development to RS50 residential single family, providing an effective date.
We have a motion made by Councilwoman Hurtak, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote.
Vieira.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Hurtak.
Yes.
Carlson. Yes. Gould.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on March 2nd, 2023 at 9:30 a.m.
Agenda item number 8, file number REC 22-123.
Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. This is a proposed rezoning at 1200 West Cass Street. Proposed rezoning from IG and CI to CI. I'll now pass along to our Planning Commission.
Good evening, Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. Our next case is in the Central Tampa Planning District, and more specifically in the West Tampa Urban Village. Julie B. Lane Riverfront Park is the closest public recreation facility, located approximately 22 miles northeast of the subject site. The closest transit stop is approximately 0.17 miles east of the subject site at West Cass Street and North Boulevard. This stop serves Heart Routes 7 and 10, providing connections to downtown Tampa, West Tampa, and the Tampa International Airport. The subject site is within Evacuation Zone B. Here is an aerial map of the subject site and surrounding properties. You'll see the subject site. It's located on the south side of West Cass, just east of the intersection of Newport Avenue. Subject site is currently recognized under the Community Mixed Use 35 Future Land Use Designation. That designation is to the northeast, south, and west of the subject site. It allows development up to a 2.0 FAR or 35 dwelling units per acre. It also allows for the consideration of commercial general, multifamily, single-family attached uses. As you move north of Cass, there's land recognized under the Residential 35 Future Land Use Designation. I actually apologize. This is the General Mixed Use 24 designation. The proposed commercial intensive zoning district can be considered under this. The proposed CI zoning district can be considered within the GMU 24 designation as consistent with the consistency matrix in section 27-21 of the Land Development Code. The surrounding area is characterized by light industrial and light commercial uses. Further to the north are single-family detached uses. The subject site is surrounded by parcels zoned CI and IG. CI zoning is present to the northeast and west of the site. Industrial general zoning is present to the south of the subject site. Due to the diverse range of commercial and industrial uses and proximity of the subject site, the CI zoning district would be appropriate for this site. Additionally, any development on the site must meet the requirements in the Land Development Code at the time of permitting. The comprehensive plan promotes pedestrian safety and encourages commercial development that enhances the city of Tampa's character and ambiance. The Tampa Comprehensive Plan promotes compatible development and redevelopment to sustain stable neighborhoods, ensure the social and economic health of the city. Planning Commission staff has reviewed the application and found no adverse impacts of the surrounding neighborhood. The Planning Commission staff finds the request will not alter the character of the surrounding area and is comparable and compatible with this portion of the West Tampa Urban Village. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions from staff? Thank you.
Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. I'll first go ahead and share the aerial view of the property. As you see the property outlined in red. Now, this proposed rezoning, as you see, there's two zones. As you see, to the north side, you'll have CI, and to the south side here, you'll have IG. So it's split between two zones here on West Cass Street. You'll have North Boulevard here to the east. You'll have UT here. You'll have Tampa Prep, and you'll have Development Coordination Office. If you look to the west, you'll have North Newport Avenue. To the north, you'll have West Cypress Street. And to the south, if you go down, you'll have more of UT and West North A Street. Now, the property here is encompassed and surrounded by either office or repair shops for automobiles. The property is approximately 0.51 acres in size. There's currently an office on associated parking lot on the site at this current time. This site is within the West Tampa overlay. I'll go ahead and share the pictures I took of the site. Oops, wow. As you see the site as is with the current office, I am right now on Cass Street, standing on Cass Street. Here's another view of the site. You have the public notice sign, and you have the office building. Across the street, there's Cass Street right here. Across the street, you have an office. To the east of the site, along Cass Street, you'll have North Boulevard, you'll have UT, you'll have downtown Tampa, and also to the east of the site, you'll have more offices. There you go. To the west of the site here, you have more offices. You have a Buddy Brew here, and also a car repair shop to the west on Cass. To the northeast of the site, you'll have a graphics and design office. And to the south of the site, you'll have offices and also construction to the south. Development Review and Compliance staff has found the application to be overall request to be consistent with the Land Development Code. There is no review sheet, and there is no site plan, as this is Euclidean. I'm here for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Thank you. While you're plugging that in, I see that we also have some of your other people that may be online. Are they going to speak? Because if so, I'd like them to be sworn in now.
No one on our team will be speaking online, so unless it's somebody else registered.
Okay, I just see representatives and owners.
Yep, nope, it'll just be me.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Good evening, Council. Alex Shaler, 400 North Ashley Drive for the record. I will make this very brief. I'm not fortunate to bring many Euclidean rezonings in front of you, but I think this one is pretty straightforward too. Zane did a good job setting up where this is located, right along Cass Street, just east of the Willow and Cass Street intersection there. It does look like it's two parcels, but it's actually a single parcel. It's just bifurcated by a north-south alley. We are leaving that alley as is. That's not proposed to be vacated in conjunction with this application. The current zoning, this is a colored map of what Zane was showing earlier. Currently, the property is split zoned. The north half is zoned CI. The southern portion is zoned IG. Our proposed request would just drag the CI designation across the entirety of the parcel all the way to the southern boundary line, effectively dropping the IG designation. And a little bit of background on this request, not only is the parcel split zoned, but the existing building on site is split zoned. It takes up the entire right block of the parcel. The building was constructed in 1930. The owner wants to keep it. We don't want to move it. They do have a new tenant coming in, and his proposed business operations are not consistent with the IG category. They're commercial. So that's the reason behind this request today. Danny went through the comp plan consistency. I just wanted to note that the CI being drug across the entirety of the parcel would be consistent with the comp plan and the GMU 24 future land use designation. And staff found this consistent across all the different reviewing departments, and so did the Planning Commission. And with that, I'll conclude my presentation and available for any questions.
Any comments or any questions? Is there anybody within chambers that wishes to speak to agenda item number 8, file number REZ 22-123. And I do not believe we have any one online, correct? Madam Clerk? Thank you very much. We have a motion made by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Councilman Good.
All right. File number REZ 22-123. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. In ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 1200 West Cass Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and will be described in section 1 from zoning district classification, IG general, industrial general, and CI commercial intensive to CI commercial intensive, providing effective date.
Second. We have a motion made by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me.
No, it's all right.
Roll call vote.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson. Goods,
Yes.
Viera, Cedro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on March 2nd, 2023 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you. Agenda item number 9, file number REZ 22-131.
Thank you so much. Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. This is proposed rezoning at the address 1105 East Louisiana Avenue. Proposed rezoning from SHRS to SHPD, residential, single-family detached. I'll now pass it along to the Planning Commission.
Danny Collins, with your Planning Commission staff have been sworn in. Our next case is within the Central Tampa Planning District, and more specifically in the Seminole Heights Urban Village. Giddens Park is the closest public recreation facility, located approximately 0.4 miles north of the subject site. The closest transit stop is within 0.3 miles east of the subject site at North 15th Street and East Osborne Avenue. This stop is serviced by Heart Route 9, which provides connections to the university area in downtown Tampa. Subject site is within Evacuation Zone E. Here is an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. The subject site is on the south side of East Louisiana Avenue. It's just east of the west of the intersection of North 12th and East Osborne Avenue. The surrounding area is predominantly residential, single family. Here is the adopted future land use map. As you can see, the subject site's recognized under the residential 10 future land use designation. This designation allows development up to 10 dwelling units per acre. The R10 is to the north, east, south, and west of the subject site. Also to the southeast of the subject site is land recognized under the residential 20 designation. The Planning Commission staff finds that the request is comparable and compatible with the surrounding area. The surrounding area is characterized by single-family detached uses. A place of religious assembly is to the south of the subject site. This area between East Osborne Avenue and East New Orleans Avenue and North 11th Street and North 12th Street has an existing density of 7.21 units per acre. This is below the maximum of 10 dwelling units per acre anticipated under the residential 10 future land use designation. The applicant is proposing 7.69 dwelling units per acre. The Planning Commission staff has determined that the proposed PD is comparable and compatible with the development pattern in the surrounding area. The request supports many of the policies and comprehensive plans as it relates to housing the city's population. The Tampa Comprehensive Plan encourages new housing on vacant and underutilized land to ensure an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's growing population. Additionally, the comprehensive plan seeks to direct the greatest share of growth to the urban centers and villages. The proposed PD supports this policy direction by creating additional housing opportunities within the Seminole Heights urban village. Finally, the PD proposes a sidewalk along East Louisiana Avenue. The proposed sidewalk will help ensure that sidewalks interconnect with existing and future sidewalks on adjacent properties, which is consistent with the policy direction of the comprehensive plan. Based on these considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, staff? Thank you.
Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. I will share the aerial view of the subject site. As you see, the subject site here outlined in red along East Louisiana Avenue. You have East New Orleans Avenue to the north. You have North 9th Street out here to the west. To the east here, you'll have North 13th Street, and to the south, you'll have East Osborne Avenue. Now, the site is surrounded by SHRS zoning, and these are all residential single-family homes. The only one that doesn't have a home is here to this, is directly south, and the lot is vacant at this time. I'll now share the site plan provided by the applicant. The proposed development is for 2 residential single-family detached dwelling units. The subject property contains a lot area of approximately 11,497 square feet or 0.26 acres. The site currently has one 377 square foot structure on it, which will be demolished. The applicant is proposing to create 2 lots here. On the lot to the west will measure 45 feet in width, and the lot to the east will also be 45 feet. As you see, the 2 proposed lots. The maximum building height will be 35 feet in height, or 2 stories. Vehicle access is provided on East Louisiana Avenue, as you see, Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2. The applicant is required to have 2 parking spaces, and the site plan shows that the applicant meets this requirement by having 2 parking spaces proposed located in an attached carport for each unit. I will now show the elevations provided by the applicant. For lot 3, the north elevation.
Put it higher, put it higher.
I'll zoom in a little bit.
No, raise it up, so lot 3 north elevation, we can see that. Go, keep going up. Okay, sorry, it's very faint.
Yeah.
The north elevation and also the south elevation. For the east and west elevation of lot 3. East elevation and the west elevation. For lot 4, you'll have the east elevation here and the west elevation. And also for lot 4, you'll have the north elevation and the south elevation. As I went out to the site and took pictures myself, I'll show you what I saw. This is the site as is. There was a fence there, but you have the sign for public notice. If you look, also I'll show you another picture. This is the 377 square foot structure that's currently on the lot, which will be demolished. As I peeked over the fence and took a picture, you'll see the one structure on the lot, and you'll see the rest of the lot is undeveloped at this time. To the west, you see there's a lot of agriculture, a lot of trees, but to the west you'll have residential single family behind the gate. To the north, opposite the street on East Louisiana, to the north you'll have residential single family. To the east, you'll have more residential single family. and to the west, you'll have more residential, single-family up and down East Louisiana Avenue. You know, I was joking with the natural resources with Aaron, and I was saying, you know, I'm not an arborist or anything, but those are some pretty cool trees you got out there, so that was very, very nice. There are two proposed waivers, and these are from Urban Design. First one is to request to increase the front build to line from 33.83 feet to 37 feet. And the second request is to increase the carport roof from 4 out of 12 to 6 out of 12 roof pitch. Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed the application and finds the overall request to be consistent with the Land Development Code. Should it be council's pleasure to approve this application, the applicant must provide revisions to the revision sheet, to the site plan as per the revision sheet between first and second reading. I'm here for any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is David Wright, president of TSP Companies. Address is P.O. Box 273417, Tampa 33688. I think the staff has covered the request pretty adequately. I would just add that the first waiver request to increase the build-to line is to satisfy the 2 parking requirement. We had to move the house back a little bit from the street in order to make it able for the second car to park in the driveway. And then the request to change the roof pitch on the carport is so that it would match the roof pitch of the top of the house too. So we just felt like architecturally it looked better for those to be consistent. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for the petitioner? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience within chambers that wishes to speak to agenda item number 9?
Move close.
Second. We have a motion to close by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. File number 9, REZ 22-131. Ordinance being for first reading consideration. An ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity 1105 East Louisiana Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification as H/RS, Seminole Heights Residential Single Family, to SH/PD, Seminole Heights Plan Development Residential Single Family Detached, providing an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call vote.
And before I go any further, I just want to say that it complies with the staff notes that has a 377 square foot structure will be demolished. With that in mind, I also find the rezoning consistent with Lands Policy 9.2.1 and Housing Policy 1.31, 133, 134, which encourages new housing for underutilized land and ensures there's adequate supply of housing needs to be met for the residents of Tampa and future population. And regarding the waivers meet the purpose and the intent for the PD zoning district to recognize unique conditions that allow design flexibility. The requested waivers do not substantially interfere with the rights of others whose property would be affected by the waiver.
And that is with revisions between first and second?
Correct.
Thank you. We have a motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call vote.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Vieira, Maniscalco,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on March 2nd, 2023 at 9:30 a.m.
Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 10, case REZ 23-02. This proposed rezoning for the location 2132 West St. Conrad Street. Proposed rezoning from RS 50 to PD Residential Single Family Attached. I'll now pass it along to our Planning Commission.
Danny Collins with the Planning Commission staff and sworn in. Our last case is within the Central Tampa Planning District and more specifically in the West Tampa Urban Village. Ray Park is located approximately 550 feet south of the subject site. The closest transit stop is located 370 feet southwest of the subject site along North Howard Avenue. The stop is served by Hart Routes 7 and 14, connecting the subject site to downtown Tampa, Hillsborough Community College, the Yukon Transfer Center, and Britton Plaza. The property is located within a Level E evacuation zone. Here is an aerial map of the subject site and surrounding property. You'll see the subject site's outlined in purple. It's on the south side of West St. Conrad Street, just east of North Howard Avenue. The surrounding area is predominantly residential. There are some non-residential uses along North Howard Avenue, as well as North Albany Avenue. Here is the adopted future land use map. The subject site, including parcels to the north, east, south, and west of the site, are recognized under the residential 35 designation. This designation allows medium-density residential development up to 35 dwelling units per acre. About a parcel and a half west of the site, as you move towards North Howard Avenue, is land recognized under the CMU 35 designation. As you move south on Howard Avenue, you have land recognized under the CC 35 future land use designation. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found no adverse impacts to the surrounding area. This portion of West St. Conrad Street between North Howard Avenue and North Albany Avenue has an existing density of 10.21 dwelling units per acre. The existing density is 29% of the density that can be considered under the R35 designation. The PD proposes a density of 18.75 dwelling units per acre. The Planning Commission staff finds that the request is consistent with the density anticipated under the residential 35 future land use designation. The comprehensive plan encourages single-family attached developments to be designed to include orientation of the front door toward a neighborhood, sidewalk, and street. The request satisfies this policy by providing front doors facing West St. Conrad Street. Additionally, vehicular access to the site is provided from an alley located along the south boundary of the subject site, which is encouraged by the comprehensive plan. Finally, the request supports policies in the plans that relates to housing the city's population. The comprehensive plan encourages new housing on vacant and underutilized land to ensure an adequate supply of housing is available to meet Tampa's growing population. Based on these considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Questions, staff? Thank you.
Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. I will share the aerial view of the property. As you see, the subject parcel here outlined in red on West St. Conrad Street. To the north, you'll have West St. Louis Street and West St. John Street. To the west, you'll have North Howard Avenue. To the east, you'll have North Albany Avenue. And to the south, you'll have West Beach Street. The property is surrounded by the zone RS50, and all of the units around the parcel are residential single family. I'll now show the site plan provided by the applicant. The proposed rezoning is for the development of the property with 3 residential single-family attached units. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. The subject site contains a lot area of 7,174 square feet or 0.16 acres. It's located on West St. Conrad Street to the north. The site is within the West Tampa overlay. The proposed parking is 7 parking spaces, and the code states that 7 parking spaces are needed, so this requirement has been met. As you'll see, vehicular access comes from the south, that alleyway to the south, and you'll have 3 detached carports from the primary structure for these parking spaces. The proposed height is 35 feet in height of the structure. I will show the elevations provided by the applicant. And on the revision sheet, the applicant will provide directional labels north, south, east, and west for each of these structures. But for the front facing, you'll see the access way to the detached garage. You'll have the front facing the alleyway of the detached garage also here. Facing the West St. Conrad Street, you'll see the front of the structure of the 3 units here attached. And also another view for the front of the structures towards West St. Conrad. As I went out and took pictures myself, I'll show you what I saw. There's a site as is, vacant. As you will see, the public notice sign in the front. To the west, you'll have residential single-family uses up and down the west of West St. Conrad. To the north, residential single-family. And to the east, you'll have residential single-family running up and along the east side of West St. Conrad. There are 3 waivers being requested, and these are from Natural Resources and Urban Design. The first request is to reduce the required 5-foot use landscape buffer to the east and west to 4.5 feet and 1.5 feet, 4.5 and 1.6. Second is to request to reduce the required 20% VUA green space to 8% subject to landscape in lieu of fees at the time of permitting. And the third is to request to reduce the front yard setback from the required 7'10" to 6'8". Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed the application and finds the overall request to be consistent with the Land Development Code. Should it be council's pleasure to approve this application, the applicant must provide revisions between first and second reading. Are there any questions?
Is it consistent with the West Tampa overlay?
Correct, it is consistent.
There's nothing, are the waivers a response to overlay, or is it the zoning?
The one waiver here, number 3, request to reduce the front yard setback, that is for urban design, and the 2 above that are for natural resources.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ralph Schuler, 2401 North Howard Avenue. I have not been sworn.
Is the gentleman behind you going to be giving any testimony?
I don't think so.
Don't think so, or don't? Or no?
Okay.
Just to be on the safe side.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I wanted to touch on a couple pretty easy things. I think it's a pretty straightforward project, of course. First, the waivers. The waivers are, we have plenty of room on both sides of the units. Where the waivers are is that we have to slide in a visitor space here. So we have 4.5 feet only at the garage, detached garage. On both sides, I have 6 feet here. Again, we have a tree here that we're sliding the structure over to protect that tree. And then the 1.6 is this dimension, which is really only this visitor spot on the last 18 feet of the lot. So, and then the second is a VUA green space. Technically, because this is a multifamily development, we have to meet a design criteria of the commercial building, which requires VUA. Well, VUA really doesn't apply here very well because we're talking about a VUA in an alley, not on the front. All of our parking is in the alley. And, of course, to get all that parking in, we need most of the width of this lot. So we're happy to play the in lieu fee. We're gonna have green space here, 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 and a little bit there, but again, it's in an alley. And then lastly, I believe this was a waiver requested last minute from Urban Design, which is we calculated a setback, a lot averaging a little less than they did. I think we're happy to actually provide the 7'10" versus the 6'8". It's not a big deal. And we'll get with staff and decide if that's a waiver that we can remove. Other than that, it's again a vacant, empty lot that is underutilized. In the way of density, we could have asked for 5 units, but single family attached is more consistent with the neighborhood, and we believe that this will be contributing to the West Tampa in general, and it was considered consistent within the urban design criteria in the West Tampa overlay. With that, I'll take questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Seeing none. Councilwoman Hurtak.
No, I just wanted to say that I appreciate your focusing the parking in the back and the residential in front to try to maintain a front yard consistency with the rest of the neighborhood. It is noted.
Any other comments, questions? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to agenda item number 10, file number REC 23-02? Seeing none, we have no one online.
Move to close. Second.
We have a motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Carlson.
I'd like to move file number REZ 23-02, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 2132 West St. Conrad Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS50 residential single family to PD plan development residential single family attached, providing effective date, including the revisions and waiver sheets. Because the applicant has met its burden of proof to provide competent substantial evidence that the development as conditioned and shown in the site plan is consistent with the comprehensive plan and city code, that I find that the requested waivers do not adversely affect the public health, safety, and general welfare. Also, like to say, as staff noted, this parcel is currently vacant and surrounded by single-family detached uses. With that in mind, I find that the proposed development is consistent with land use policy 2.1.2 and housing policies 1.3.1, 1.3.3, and 1.3.4, which encourage new housing on vacant and underutilized land to ensure that an adequate supply of housing is available to meet Tampa's needs. And the proposed development as shown on the site plan promotes or encourages development that is appropriate in location, character, and compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood.
Second. We have a motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call vote.
Carlson?
Yes.
Gould?
Yes.
Viera?
Yes.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
Hurtak?
Yes.
Citro?
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on March 2nd, 2023 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Information reports. Councilman Miranda.
None, sir.
Councilman Goods.
Yes, sir. Request that staff present the list of surplus properties deemed appropriate for affordable housing as required by Florida State Statute 166.0451 be brought back to City Council regular session March 2nd, 2023.
Motion made by Councilman Goods, seconded by Councilwoman Hurtak. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Nothing.
Councilman Maniscalco.
I have a few motions. I was actually going to wish Martin Shelby a happy early birthday, but we have that opportunity next week. The 19th. All right, motion number 1. I have a request by the Planning Commission to remove TACPA 22-25 from the February 23rd, 2023, 5:01 p.m. adoption public hearing.
A motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the next motion is a request by the Planning Commission to set an adoption hearing for TACPA 22-25 on March 23rd, 2023 at 5:01 PM, and direct the legal department to provide the city clerk with a form of notice for advertising the public hearing.
We have a motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye. And the final one is a request by the Planning Commission to remove TACPA 22-13 from the June 8th, 2023 5:01 PM adoption public hearing.
We have a motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye. That's it. Thank you very much, sir.
Councilman Vieira.
Yeah, just very briefly, I want to give a commendation. A nice gentleman that some of us know, Luis Campuzano, who was one of the part owners of Krabby Bill's, was a Bay of Pigs veteran, a Navy veteran, just a really nice guy. Passed on, and I wanted to give his family a commendation in his memory tomorrow, in fact, here at City Hall at 1 o'clock.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye. Second, if I may, and lastly, I was brought to my attention by a number of individuals here in Tampa, Indian Americans, with the game cricket, and they're looking for places where they can play cricket in our city fields. So I wanted to ask our friends at Parks and Recreation if they can identify either existing locations within Parks and Recreation or fields or green spaces, et cetera, or alternatively, sites that can be used in the future, and they can come back on that for cricket in, what are we, in February? Man, the first week in May, and if they need more time, I can give them more time.
Is that city?
The what, I'm sorry?
Woodland.
Well, let's let them know, right? Thank you.
Motion made by Councilman Vieira, but seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Councilman Carlson.
Nothing, thank you.
I have a request, Council. You remember the helicopter accident that happened off of Davis Islands?
Yes.
Where our Buccaneers quarterback Gabbert and his brothers rescued the 4 people?
Yep.
I've just been informed by Brian Ford that the only day that we can get all of them together to present the commendation to them would be February 23rd.
That's a busy workshop day, but I'll support you. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. We have a motion from Chairman Citro with a second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Anything else?
And it will be just 5 minutes.
What if we want pictures and autographs? I'm kidding.
If we want to save time, we can move the pure discussion until after May 1st.
Mr. Chairman?
Second.
Third.
Mr. Chairman?
Third.
No, we're keeping that one. We're keeping that one.
Councilman
Councilman
Good.
Miranda, I just have a couple of things. Number one is,
We did take the vote on that,
did you take
correct?
the vote?
Okay.
Did you take the vote? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you. A
Thank
couple
you,
of things.
Chair-
Number one, with
Council.
regard to the workshop on the 23rd, it is a very full workshop. My suggestion perhaps is to ask the administration and work with the chair to actually group these in ways that we can move them along and do it in a way.
Sounds good. I will ask staff if we can do that.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Vieira.
Thanks. And if I have any, or if any of us, I don't know what I may have on that day. I mean, we can look at them individually and maybe
That
kick
would
them
be
down the
great.
road, whatever. I mean, it's
If
all
you
good.
can,
I'm
Counsel.
sure I don't have.
Also, one last thing
Second.
while I have you all here, Council, this will take about 1 minute less. With regard to continuances, this being a rezoning night, it's relevant, but with regard to requests for continuance, I had prepared changes to the rules of procedure, but a question came up, Council, whether Council wanted to incorporate into that a first continuance as a matter of right, as long as they give at least, let's say, 1 week's notice, at least 1 week's notice. Did Council want to, because in that case, it would appear on the draft agenda that the request had been continued. So the question is, does Council want to have the first continuance as a matter of right, or do you want the process to be the way the first one would not necessarily, that none of them would be actually as a matter of right? But normally Council, it has been noted that normally Council has been granting the first continuance really without much discussion and debate. So what is Council's pleasure? A consensus if you have it, if you're not, if you want to talk about it, we could talk about it next week, but I would like to be able to get a direction on that, because I'd like to incorporate it if that's your intention.
Council won't hurt that.
I always feel like everyone should get like a second opportunity, so I don't really have a problem with just,
You can't control the work.
yeah. So One continuance is no big deal.
That is fine, that's the direction I'm looking for. Unless there's any
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Goode.
I forgot, Robert Irving, who sits on our citizenry board, passed away. His services were today. Good fraternity brother of mine, was president of our fraternity, Kappa Psi Fraternity Incorporated, so I wanted to make sure I recognized him. I did have the office and a resolution from our office over to the family, but since he did serve on our Citizen Review Board, which you know is a critical board in this particular time, I'd like to go ahead and give accommodation to his family and present it to them.
We have a motion made by Councilman Goode, seconded by Councilwoman Hurtak. All in favor? Aye. All right. Anything else? Motion to receive by file. I'm sorry.
Mr. Vieira?
Yes, ma'am.
For your cricket,
yes, ma'am.
for the site, we're gonna put it on May the 4th.
That's fine. And again, if Parks and Recs need more time, it's all good. Thank you.
Motion to receive and file by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda.